said solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to Tuesday. Around here, it's oftentimes about the food, so we call it Taco Tuesday. Hit it, man.
But more importantly, y'all know what today is, right? It's Taco
Tuesday. Yeah, it is Taco Tuesday. Welcome to it. Speedy Gonzalez says so. And oh, by the way, JP pushing buttons on the board. Hey, buddy, how are you?
I'm good, but you said it's often about the food. I feel like it's always about the food. The only day it's not is on Thankful Thursday.
Well, we have Friday.
Okay, I guess that's true. Friday,
and then we have the camel. We don't eat camels,
but we try. I think we still throw in food any chance we can on those days. So there you go.
What if anybody eats camel?
Actually, I think John one time said there's camel tacos. So I don't know how appetizing that is.
Tastes like chicken.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, good enough. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right. We got a great show laid on for you. Coming up at the beginning of hour number 2, Amy Minton. Some of y'all know Amy. She's been on the show before, but Amy Minton serves on the Alabama State Library Board, and they are making decisions today, actually, about some of the more egregious things that wind up in the children's sections at libraries, including what happens in Fairhope. So we're going to talk to Amy Minton, who, by the way, is also a candidate for the Alabama State Senate for my old seat, it turns out. So Senate District 10, the one I used to serve in. So Amy Minton coming on at the beginning of hour number 2. Stand by for that. And then I got a triple dipper, bar none. So hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. First out the gate, home fries. Oh, yeah, you know the deal, man. Looking around, I find the things, the stories, the stuff happening in and around and amongst us that, just kind of, you realize you got to know that. You got to either be proud of it or be aware of it, or at the very least, just, have some situational understanding. Well, we're going to talk about things that are happening around our backyard and call it home fries. Number 1 on the Triple Dipper. And then number 2, didn't get to it yesterday. My plan is to get to it today. Man, I got a stack of stuff every once in a while. I'm looking around and I look at all the wokeness. Look at that woke. How much woke, all the wokeness. Next thing I know, I've got a plethora, a cornucopia, a vast buffet, a charcuterie, if you will, of wokeness. So it becomes a time for another round of adventures in woke world. Stand by for that one. And then the third one, look, I'm planning on getting to this today, but I began finding stories, and it, every once in a while a theme develops itself. This one I'm calling rogue medicine. Rogue medicine, like medicine that got out there on the fringe, started doing stuff that it shouldn't do, ethically, morally, spiritually, whatever. Rogue medicine. I got some stories that'll curl your hair. We'll talk about it. Number 3 on the Triple Dipper. All right, let me jump on into today's Rightside Way opening monologue, and I'll remind you guys, as always, that Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee up in Huntsville, longtime practitioner of law, longtime conservative, daily sponsor of the Rightside Way, and I'll tell you more about Stan McDonald here in just a few minutes. All right, let's kick it off by me saying this. It's important, in my opinion, it's important to hear words of hope from those who are in leadership. I mean, it's one thing to have a leader who wants to point out where things could have been done better or done right or done differently. But the fact of the matter is sometimes people need to hear the guy in charge give you words of hope, speak life into the moment, if you will. People need to hear things that are going right, going well, going in the right direction. And I don't mean like platitudes or false hope or attaboys. I'm talking about telling it like it is. And when there's a time of difficulty, to remember how important it is for the larger body to hear from the one at the top that things are going to work out. And I'll be honest with you, I think President Trump gets that. Now, he will call a spade, but he never hesitates to say when things are right. Yesterday was a classic example. As President Trump stood with nearly 24 world leaders to herald the signing of a major peace agreement unlike any seen in modern years. As Israel and Hamas agreed to end their fighting and hostages returned to their homes and loved ones, President Trump spoke to the Israeli Knesset. And he lauded Benjamin Netanyahu. He congratulated the people of Israel. He thanked the key members of his own cabinet. And then he said this to the world. He said, quote, "It will be the golden age of Israel and the golden age of the Middle East." He said, "This is not only the end of a war. This is the end of an age of terror and death and the beginning of the age of faith and hope and of God." That's powerful. He went on then to extend the olive branch even to the people of Iran. Now, those are amazing words. Not every president in recent years understood the value of speaking life into the moment. Some have actually chosen to abuse the ability to speak to the masses. Biden certainly did. I'll remind you about that more in a minute. But first, let me talk about history. Let me talk about what happens when people communicate or abuse the right to communicate. Because there's an amazing anniversary coming up in the next couple of weeks. The anniversary of something that happened literally 87 years ago this month, 1938. On the evening of October 30th, 1938, and keep in mind at that time, radio was just it. There was no TV, no internet. It was print newspapers and radio. That was the means by which the majority of the civilized world got their news. And if it was live reporting, if it came by a voice over the airwaves, well, on that night in the late 30s, Orson Welles was trying to drive up his own listening audience, and he felt the need to shake things up a bit. So taking a cue from an H.G. Wells novel, Orson Welles and his staff wrote a radio-based play that sounded so real, so terrifying, that mass hysteria broke out in parts of the United States as people truly believed that the Earth was actually under attack by invaders from outer space. Now, it may sound sort of ludicrous now, maybe the butt of some jokes or something that would cause some of you to roll your eyes, but in 1938, people had actually come to trust the ability of radio to deliver messages that they needed to hear. And Orson Welles, well, he mixed his broadcast with sounds of chaos. There was like fake live reporting from the scenes of the fighting, news reports indicating the U.S. Army was engaging the enemy, quick interviews with astronomers confirming that multiple observatories had witnessed unexplained phenomena coming from outside our atmosphere. Metal objects were said to be crashing to Earth, disgorging tentacled, leathery creatures that shot fire from strange weapons. At one point, claims were even made that New York City was being evacuated. And then, to cap it off, a person sounding remarkably like President Franklin Roosevelt actually began to address the nation, saying, "Citizens of the nation, I shall not try to conceal the gravity of the situation that confronts the country, nor the concerns of your government in protecting the lives and property of its people. We must continue," he said, "the performance of our duties in every one of us, so that we may confront this destructive adversary with a nation united, courageous, consecrated to the preservation of human supremacy on this earth." I mean, y'all, it was something. And people were up in all kinds of consternation. In real life, it is said that all across the United States, listeners reacted. Thousands of people called their radio stations, the police, newspapers. Many in the New England area loaded up their cars and actually fled their homes. In other areas, people went to churches to pray. There were people that were improvising gas masks. There were said to be miscarriages and early births being reported, presumably because of stress. Deaths were reported but never confirmed. Many people were hysterical. They thought the end was actually near. To say the public was outraged when the truth became known is an understatement. I mean, there were even lawsuits. It was evidence of what some have termed a mass formation psychosis, which is known as the mass acceptance of a message designed to panic or shape behavior. Well, here's the thing. The collective psyche of the American public was a bit fragile at that time. That was 1938. One recounting of the event on history.com says, "Fear and anxiety had become a way of life in the 1930s. It took very little to rattle the jittery Americans. The Depression had already emptied their wallets. The gathering crisis in Europe was threatening to ignite into a war. And just weeks earlier, the hurricane of 1938 had roared ashore. Plus," he said, "the Hindenburg disaster. That had been broadcast over the airwaves just the year before, and it was still fresh in people's minds." All right. Orson Welles and CBS learned some hard lessons that night. But they're lessons, though, that need to be relearned, especially here in the modern era. In a day and age when politicos and pundits and protesters have worn some portions of today's society into a series of raw wounds, where Democrats seem to be willing to get up there and say anything at the microphone, claiming that there are Nazis and thugs everywhere, claiming that there's no end in sight to the idea of tyranny in America, just saying anything and everything to wound people with it. Over the past few years, we've seen BLM and Antifa loot and burn with impunity, elections procedures and results of the elections falling into question. Inflation was at 40-year highs at one point. The debacle of the Afghanistan pullout, unless we overlook the more egregious and injurious of it all, there was the COVID pandemic and all the resulting power grabs and shutdowns and economic malaise. So yeah, I would say, having said all that, in light of my opening statements about Trump speaking life into people, it's important that people hear messages of hope once in a while. Now, remember the speech by former President Joe Biden? One of the worst examples of fear-mongering I have ever seen. In the wake of all the things that I just finished telling you, the things that would have made some aspects of our culture a bit fragile and on edge, then Joe Biden gives one of the worst speeches I've ever seen. He purposely stood, remember this, in front of an eerie, low-light, red-cast backdrop. He had 2 uniformed Marines standing behind him, flanking the red-cast doorway that he walked out of. There were odd camera angles that were often looking up at him as he waved his hands and angrily shouted down anybody who dared to oppose what he knows to be his truth. He used taxpayer dollars and the seal of his great office and the presence of the U.S. military to basically abandon every possible conflict of interest and give a purely partisan political speech that was designed to do nothing except foment discord and insult anybody who disagreed with his politics. And all it did was set the nation on edge. Now, keep in mind, he did not walk out into this as an impromptu setting. He didn't show up on somebody else's podcast and that was the set. No, they designed this. This was all designed with malice aforethought by handlers who believed that he needed to be seen as the strong man. And in my opinion, he was actually seen as evil. A word that I rarely use, by the way. I try not to. I reserve it for the most egregious character designations that I can think of. But that speech where he stood up there with all the red cast lights and everything else, yelling and railing his hands, waving his hands in the air, that was an evil speech. It was an effort for him to be seen as the man. And Joe Biden came across as an evil individual being spirited along by some dangerous winds. And as he railed that anybody who supported President Trump and what he calls the MAGA agenda should be considered dangerous and an actual threat to democracy, a threat to our very way of life, he said, as he gave this well-rehearsed, well-orchestrated rebuke, he was basically openly threatening 71 million people who did not vote for him. Joe Biden abandoned all of his self-proclaimed moniker of uniter in chief, and he became the alarmist in chief, intent not only just dividing our society, but of fracturing it under penalty of persecution from the office of the presidency, every asset available to government. But we didn't buy it, did we? No, we didn't. We did a whole lot better than a lot of the people who heard the War of the Worlds broadcast in 1938. Yeah, 87 years ago this month. We didn't pack up the car, grab the dog, and head for the hills, did we? No, we did not. We went to the polls and we voted. See, there was an alternative message, one that we will not be divided, one that says we will not be cowed down, we will not be silent, and that there are actually more of us than there are of them. There's no more mass formation psychosis on this one. We could see the truth and we could walk in it. So I'm saying it. I'm continuing to say it. You keep your heads on a swivel. Keep your emotions clear. And isn't it refreshing, by the way, to finally have somebody back in the White House who understands the value of speaking affirmatively and of giving hope instead of despair. Hope versus despair. I mean, seriously. Thanks versus threats. War of the worlds versus war of the words. And by the way, I hope somebody fired whoever it was in the White House that thought that creepy Biden speech was a good idea. It was as bad as War of the Worlds in 1938. And that's a wrap for the Rightside Way. Well, there you have it. Yep, 87 years ago this month, coming up. Can you imagine the whole world being set on edge because of a radio broadcast? But it was real. It freaked people out. But that's the power of media. And that's why we need leaders who are willing to say the positive as well as the negative and make sure the message of hope is actually getting out. Don't just abuse the media and go all war of the words on us. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Even exist. So to know that I was even remotely involved in any of that. And then when Tony did the little kickoff announcement saying, hey, we're creating a new rival league and our top star is going to be Chris Jericho. That was a big surprise because he's a well-established name.
Yeah.
He wanted to host a rally outside of the Jaguar Stadium in Jacksonville in the parking lot. And he called me to host it and MC it. And I'm like, I'm a mortgage guy from Gunnersville. Why am I here? I'm like the Forrest Gump of wrestling, but I got to do it and jumped at the chance.
That's what you are. You're the Forrest Gump of wrestling.
I am. You don't
even realize how much you've touched. You just keep on touching.
I guess. You got any Dr. Pepper around here?
Somewhere.
Right?
A box of chocolates.
Just want to say this. Megan is not Jenny. I just need to get that on the record. Nothing like Jenny or Jenny. But maybe that makes Cassio my Bubba.
That's what it is.
I like that.
It's got to be.
I like that.
So let me ask you, you went from podcasting, so-called accidentally.
Yeah.
That grew into more and more podcasting.
That's right.
That grew into success with launching other podcasts, then StarCast. And you've also, oh, by the way, had a gig on Vice TV.
Well, that was, again, wrestling related.
Sure.
But there's a fabulous show called Dark Side of the Ring.
Right.
And before it was launched, they invited Bruce and I into their studios in New York to do a screener of their very first episode, the pilot, you might call it, about
Okay.
Bruiser Brody. And we loved it. And so Bruce and Eric and everybody else I was working with, I sort of closed the gap and helped facilitate some of those guests. And I still do. If I have a number on someone they can't find, and just really believe in what Evan and Jason have been doing with that series. So during the pandemic, there was an appetite for more of that content. So they wanted to do something called Dark Side of the Ring Confidential, where they aired clips that had never been seen before. And we added some more context to the behind the scenes of the creation of that. So they asked us right in the middle of the pandemic to shoot this at the former ECW Arena in South Philadelphia. So Cassio and I jumped in my car and drove all the way up there because we didn't want to fly because this is the COVID era. So here we are slipping around in a car that doesn't have four-wheel drive, driving on iced over streets with really just sheets of ice, hoping, is that the Airbnb they put us up in? Because at the time, we're not even staying in hotels. It was really crazy, but we did it, and it was a blast. And yeah, I never imagined that I would be on television. Like, guys who look and sound like me are not supposed to be on television. But there I was, thankful for the opportunity.
Well, I mean, this has been a cool walk, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
And still is. I
Yes.
mean, and I don't know if it's been a walk or a run or both, but
At times, both.
yeah. But then you got a call in 2023.
Yes.
And you have now been inducted into the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Yeah, in Waterloo, Iowa.
What the heck?
I can't believe it. Like, you know, they have an award there called the Gordon Soley Award, who's arguably the dean of professional wrestling, just one of the greatest voices and commentary professionals, play-by-play in the history of wrestling. So he was the first recipient, and the second recipient was what I consider the real voice of wrestling of my generation, Jim Ross.
Okay.
And when they had a committee and they voted on who should be the next to receive the award, they chose me. And at that point, I had never actually worked for a wrestling organization beyond my WWE Network TV show. And I kind of thought, are you sure? Like, there's so many other worthwhile and worthy individuals. But they asked, and I answered and said yes. And to my surprise, Bruce agreed to come in and give my induction speech and introduce me. And even more added pressure, I thought, hey, I'm the nobody. So at least we'll get it out of the way early and then we can go to dinner. No, they wanted me to go last. And now it's like you have all this pressure of everyone looking at it. It's like, I'm not even supposed to be here.
And
like,
now for our keynote speaker.
Right. And I'm not even a wrestler. I've never taken a bump, as they call it in the wrestling ring. I shouldn't be up here. But I was very thankful and appreciative that last year I was able to nominate, and there was 100% unanimous votes for that Tony Schiavone.
How about that?
Went in the Hall of Fame, and that was his very first Hall of Fame. And he started broadcasting wrestling in '83.
Wow.
And to think I may have had a hand in nominating him to go into the Hall of Fame in 2024 was just surreal. So
You're
very
just
thankful.
you're just gumping again.
Gumping, man.
You're just gumping the entire
I'm
time.
dumping it. By the way, shout out to Waterloo, Iowa. It's the Thez and Tragos Hall of Fame, the Dan Gable Museum in Waterloo, Iowa. It's going down this July. I'll be there again. This year, Eric Bischoff's going in. So I'm pumped about that.
Is there a special jacket? Do you wear like a Ric Flair robe? What do you wear when you go to an award ceremony?
No,
like that?
I mean, I think they want you to wear a suit, but they do give you a cool plaque and your name is displayed there in the museum. And I mean, just the idea that I'm in a professional wrestling Hall of Fame as the mortgage
That is
guy.
very
If
cool.
you could tell 7-year-old me that, it would blow his mind. It'd be the coolest
that is
thing
very
ever.
that is absolutely very cool. All right, so you got this crazy life. Did you ever imagine this stuff? I mean, you. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. And so let me just tell you real quickly about my friend Stan McDonald. So yeah, attorney Stan McDonald partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee. He's a 30-year veteran in the practice of law. You guys, I'm telling you right now, not only is Stan the kind of guy who can do what you need when it comes to, practicing law, doing all the things you legally might need, but he also, oh, by the way, has been in the trenches, in the fray, in the mix for years as basically an OG right side ruffian. I mean, he cares about all the same conservative policies and politics you care about. That being said, attorney Stan McDonald, he has also represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions over the years. He can stand up for you in any local, state, or federal court. I like to say, I always do, that if Stan McDonald's on your side, you're going to have no greater friend. Likewise, your adversaries would have no greater foe. So having said that, I'm going to tell you how to reach him. You ready? I'm going to give you his phone number. Here we go. Stan McDonald. The law firm is Wilmer and Lee. He's an America First family man, and his number is 256-533-0202. That's Stan McDonald, 256-533-0202, and tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio. And no representation made. The quality legal services are like bad, because they couldn't be bad, because why would I be advertising a guy who's bad on my show? Stan McDonald, by golly. The real kicker's at the end when I say he's Stan McDonald, by golly. That's the most important part.
Yeah, that's all you need to know.
That's all you got to know, man. All right. Hey, listen, we got plenty of stuff here, and I got a text line that is wide open, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Let me get a few of these. Tom with all the kids. Tom with all the kids in Huntsville says, I've had camel, goat, horse, and mystery meat. Love me some American steak. Let me know if you want to hear the mystery meat story. I don't. I just don't. Mystery meat. It's just, you never can tell.
If you can't disclose the meat, then I think that tells you what you need to know.
I'm just saying. What's that classic line from Oh Brother Where Art Thou? I do believe this horse starting to turn. Now, have you seen that yet?
I haven't seen the whole movie.
Oh my gosh, there's so many.
But I know the clips like that. Yeah.
Go for Everett. I could quote that movie all day long. Nofre from Lexington says, all that Trump has going on, he still finds time to kill 6 more Venezuelan drug runners. Boat drivers wanted will pay, hazard pay.
Yeah, did you see another one today?
I did just see that a minute ago. Yeah, absolutely. He's also meeting with Argentina's president right now as we speak at the White House. And he's meeting with Zelensky on Friday. Oh, and he's awarding a presidential gold medal to Charlie Kirk posthumously today. He just signed a peace accords in Israel yesterday. Oh, by the way, what else?
He got back at 3 a.m. DC time last night. So having such a high stakes meeting with another president in the White House, and then you got not just went to bed at they got back at 3 a.m. last night. So he probably just stayed up the rest of the night.
I don't know, man.
So
playing Nintendo on the plane, who knows?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I suspect he got a pretty decent bedroom on the plane.
He does, probably.
But still.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway. All right. I got plenty more text messages. I got lots of content. We got a great show. You guys stay tuned. We will be right back. You got 2 sides to your professional life. Both of them are still gainful and still going.
Yeah.
And both of them are still time takers, and both of them you still have people that work for you here, there, and the other, and you're running and gunning. Did you ever imagine? I mean, where'd you come from? Where did Conrad Thompson, was he come out of the womb as an entrepreneur, or did something happen? What got you to the point that you are able to step into entrepreneurship with this kind of brash boldness that you seem to project right now?
Well, that's an interesting question. First of all, I appreciate that. I like brash boldness. If that's the way people describe me, that would be cool.
Down for you.
Right?
Brash and bold.
I like it. No, my grandfather, I guess maybe this is part of it. He was in the Amway business and did really well.
Oh, wow.
I never even studied Amway, but I guess people get impressed when I say he was double diamond. I guess that's a thing. I don't know. But I guess he did pretty well at that. And then, unfortunately, he and my grandmother got divorced, and things were never the same for either of them after that. But my mom partnered with my grandmother, and they started a domiciliary. You and I, being country folks, might call it an old folks home, where they're not quite ready to go to, full-time care like a nursing home, but they do need somebody to just help them around the house and that sort of thing. So they created that. And then my dad he worked at the prison system. He was a security guard or a prison guard, and he would, do drug tests and whatever other tasks they had him handle at the prison there. But that wasn't enough. They needed more income. So Dad started selling insurance part-time, And then he started selling vacuum cleaners part-time, and that proved to be more lucrative. And eventually my dad was earning far more money selling vacuum cleaners in the evenings and on weekends than he was working for the state as a security guard at the prison. So he had an opportunity to have his own territory, and eventually he jumped at it. So we went from Prattville, Alabama, a suburb of Montgomery, up to Gunnersville, and that's where I graduated high school. But I saw my parents' life change from where, you know, mom was telling me, don't answer the phone, that's grown folks' business. Those are bill collectors.
Yeah.
And I learned things like, if you mail the cable bill to the power company and the power bill to the cable company, it'll buy you a few more days. You know, so I grew up with that. And I remember wanting to be able to do better and provide more for my mom. And so when I saw that become a realization, you know, now we're taking fancy trips to Cancun, and we have a 2-story house and an in-ground pool, and mom's driving a Lincoln. I remember what that felt like. So I just decided right then, hey, I'm going to be in sales. I want to do sales.
How about that?
So when I was a sophomore at Gunnersville High School, I got as silly as this sentence sounds, a full ride at Sneed. But Sneed State Community College had a program called the Ambassador Program. And if you were chosen to be one of the Marshall County ambassadors through a series of testing and interviews and things like that, they would allow you to go to Sneed. So I did that. And in 2000, Van Scott, who was my business professor, and I had so many classes with him, he said something along the lines of, now, folks, if you keep your nose clean and you keep your head down, some of you in this room could earn up to $35,000 a year.
Which sounded like money.
But I reached in my book bag at the end of class, and I realized here we are in September, and my year to date is like 60 grand.
There you go.
So I came to Van after the room had cleared out, and I said, hey, I think this was my last class. And he says, are you dropping the class? Because I'd had several with Mr. Scott. And I said, no, I think I'm dropping school. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, well, you said if I keep my head down and I keep my nose clean, I could earn $35,000 a year, but here's my paycheck stub. And he looks at it, and he looked up at me and said, son, you make more than me. Why are you here? And patted me on the arm. And that was it. I never went back.
How about that?
And before I knew it, I moved to Huntsville because I wanted to be where the people were. If you're in a sales job, you need to go where the people are.
Yeah.
So living in Gunnersville, 6,000 people at the time or whatever it is, I went to Huntsville, rented an apartment, and 11 months later, I bought a house, and mortgages, here we come.
Well, so looking back to your family, I mean, I heard a couple things in there. I heard work ethic.
Oh yeah.
I heard my pastor said that's last Sunday, actually. He said, if we don't quit, we win.
That's right.
And there was a bit of that mixed in there.
Oh, yeah.
More than work ethic, it sounded like there was also a tenacious effort to not quit.
Absolutely. My dad is my hero, and he instilled a great work ethic in me. He instilled a positive mental attitude. You know, I feel bad for folks who grew up in a household that just breeds negativity. That's not the household I grew up in.
Yeah.
You know, my parents were just drilling into me that I could do anything I wanted.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all. I'm talking about this show. This show goes like from Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga. And I'm talking about Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that loveless little village on the plains we call Auburn. Straight across the line from there to what we call, once again, Fort Benning. Benning. And then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. That's just radio, by the way. That's just the radio footprint. Then there's, by the way, all y'all out there in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web and live streaming right now, even live streaming. Looking in on the studio, audio and video, places like X, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then there's all you podcasters that catch it after the fact. Apparently over 360,000 downloads of that podcast. So all I'm saying is, wherever you are, however you catch this show, I recite all that to let you know that we know and we're aware and we appreciate you and we love it. And we only do this because of you. So thank you very much. I got to you got some texting machines today, y'all. Taco Tuesday apparently brings out the texters. Maybe we ought to call it Texting Tuesday.
That's well, every day is really texting day with this audience, but yeah.
That's true. What do I got here? Pastor Dave from Indiana says, thankfully, a few on the left came out and commended Trump on his peace deal. But Time Magazine had to come out and pick one of the worst looking pictures of Trump to put on the cover. Everybody ought to be celebrating this monumental moment in the Middle East. I did see that, looking straight up his nose. Like, what the heck?
Well, the photographer, I think, has been outed as a raging lib, so it
No
kind of
kidding.
tracks. Yeah.
Didn't Trump even comment on the picture at some point?
I don't know. I haven't seen that, but yeah, it's like, I mean, he just secured a historic peace deal in the Middle East.
Yeah,
and let's choose such an awful picture of him.
Let's take the nostril shot.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Well played, sir. Dana from Athens says, Phil, awesome monologue. Thank you. I hope your home fries segment might include the August Borden Deschler High School situation, a serious issue that needs your attention from high up. It does not, Dana, because I know it's still developing. I'm aware of it. I'm also keenly aware that there's been some real concern from the district attorney's office on that. But it is not necessarily a part of the program, in part because I think there's so many unknowns. But I don't mind talking about it, so we may just include that. You got something to say? What are you about to say? All right. Jeff from Indiana says, hey, Phil, as scary as War of the Worlds was, something even more scarier would have been the announcement of Kamala Harris as 47th president. He said, I would have become a panicking. You think you got a sound effect for that? It's what if Kamala had been elected? There it is. That would have been much rather fought. I would have much rather fought space creatures than the creature from the California swamp. No doubt.
I don't even like to think about.
Good Lord. I don't either. Hit me one more time on that screaming goat. I just think that's necessary. Wow. John from Huntsville says, Phil, spectacular monologue. Thank you, sir. He said, also, did you hear that Alec Baldwin crashed his wife's Range Rover into a tree in East Hampton, New York, with his brother Stephen Baldwin sitting in the passenger seat? I did. By the way, JP, did you see your Falcons beat the Bills last night? I wonder how that happened.
I'm still trying to figure out how that happened too, to be honest with you. I'll take the win.
That's right. It would be the same way as if Auburn had beaten Georgia. We would have gone, we're taking it. But we didn't. By the way, did you hear that Austin is gone? I heard that.
Yeah, that's a pretty
was
ugly situation from what I've seen.
Was he suspended? What happened? All I know is he's apparently gone from the program.
From what I've seen, he was a captain and I guess wasn't getting much playing time. I don't know. And asked to redshirt, and Hugh Freeze apparently did not like that and sent him on his way. From what that's the story that's out there.
Wow.
But apparently some of the players have been outing or expressing their disgrievances and disapproval, I should say, with it all. So
with Austin or with the coach?
So we'll see.
I had one person tell me yesterday, I know we're chasing a rabbit here, but I had one person tell me yesterday they think that Hugh Freeze could be gone this week.
No, he'll finish out the year. I think that's the right thing to do, but I don't know. It's not looking.
I don't know. We're getting up to the portal time. I mean, and then what do you do?
I hate firing coaches mid-season unless they're like 0-6, 0-7. You know, like what Franklin got thrown out at Penn State. I just know I wish they would just let him go on the rest of the season. But
that would be my preference. But at the same time, I think the clamor has probably already begun behind the scenes.
We'll see.
I'm just going to wait and watch. JT Lacey Springs says early 80s, a radio station in Decatur replayed the Wells program. It was a bit disturbing, even knowing it wasn't real. Yeah, I mean, they put that thing together. Have you ever heard of that? What? Oh, it's so 1938, man. And it was done as if the world was coming to an end. And they were broadcasting. We interrupt this program to bring you in, and they just like went at it. And freaked people. No warning, no advertisement. We're gonna do this thing, just enjoy it. No, they just launched into it and scared the world.
That's nuts.
Yeah, it would be like Fox News staging a nuclear blast and just pretending it was real.
It's like a big prank on everybody.
Oh my gosh, they thought it would be a hoot. Nope. Dave from Capshaw says Soylent Green is people. Thank you. That's a classic line, but I'm not sure why you're saying it now. Handyman from Caddo says, look up what Neil Boris did on the radio when he broadcast the Great Cat Chase. Okay, that's scary. I'll have to do that. Last few, and then I'm jumping into my topic. Scott from Russellville, Alabama says, yet another excellent monologue, Colonel Williams. Thank you, sir. He said Biden's speech and his actions, they were disgraceful. Thanks for reminding others. And then he says something that I don't know that I can. Was that?
He's saying something about Tyus talking about getting a text from Trump at 2:30 a.m. is hilarious. I think he was saying the texts themselves were not safe for work. But
okay. Yeah. And then Kevin from Hartselle says the Democrats are into scare tactics as always. They say don't let a crisis go to waste. Democrats keep telling people they're going to take away your health care. That's the latest, I believe, is why they're keeping the voting down, opening the government. Yep, that's one of their big mantras. And then last one for now, you guys are awesome. Texting machines, man. 833-687-4448. Keep them coming. Colonel, prayers for them folk up in Alaska devastated by that bad storm. Alaska?
I haven't seen that.
I know that we had a nor'easter blowing up into the New York area, but I have not heard about Alaska.
My nationwide weather awareness is pretty bad, so I have not seen anything about that.
Well, let's jump on into some home fries, you guys. All right, you know the deal. Every once in a while, I am looking around and I'm scanning the news and I'm realizing there's so much happening in our own backyard, in and around and amongst us. And that's when I realized, you know what? We got to stop pretending that all the news is out there. Sometimes the news is right here. That's when I like to say we're cooking up a batch of home fries. Oh, yeah. There it is. Cook them up. Things that are happening at home. All right, so this may sound like, okay, this is not exciting news. It's not sexy, but it really kind of is. In terms of economic development, in terms of living in a state where like good things are actually happening, there was a story that came out yesterday, and I seem to recall this being something that I voted to help fund the state level appropriation for when I was still in the Senate. So this has been a number of years. But the Port of Mobile, and a lot of folks don't think of Mobile as being a port city. It is. It's a massive port city. It's a shipping and receiving port. It's a port for cruise ships. It's a port for shipbuilding with the Austell boat yards down there. They just finished a $366 million dredging and improvement project. The Port of Mobile, get ready for the applause, please. The Port of Mobile is now the deepest container port in the entire Gulf of America. That's huge. Why is that a big deal? Because it starts diverting all kinds of business to our state. And next thing you know, those trucks that are offloading from the Port of Mobile, because we got deep water port, are coming straight up I-65 and running through the state, stopping and buying things. And next thing you know, people want to locate their businesses close to it. It winds up becoming a thing that they can have all kinds of second and third order effects. So yesterday, you had everybody from Governor Ivey and retired U.S. Senator Richard Shelby, Senator Katie Britt, Tuberville, Shamari Figures, U.S. Representative Barry Moore. You had an entire U.S. delegation, lots of local officials, the mayor of Mobile, all of them. And they were all there for this massive project, basically the christening of the all new and improved Port of Mobile. Biggest, deepest port in the entire Gulf of America region. Think about that right there in Mobile, Alabama. Love that. Now, something else that I think is worthy of news. Have you noticed how this story seems to have dropped off? But I'm glad some of us are not letting it go. Story out of Montgomery, Alabama. Just was it weekend before last? 2 dead, 14 injured in a mass shooting in downtown Montgomery. They had a large HBCU, historically black colleges and universities, football gathering, big crowds. Somebody took issue with somebody, and somebody started shooting to somebody else. And next thing you know, shooting breaks out in a crowd. 14 people injured, 2 people killed. But it's also right down the street from the Capitol. I mean like you can almost throw a rock to the Capitol. It was that close. It's supposed to be in one of the better areas of renovated downtown Montgomery. How'd that work out? Well, the problem is, really, you still got a crime issue in Montgomery that has been getting better, but Montgomery Mayor Stephen Reed does not want to admit that he has a problem. You're talking about one of the most liberal governors in the South. And Montgomery Mayor Stephen Reed is still saying that our state capital, in his opinion, is not a capital city in crisis. I've got a piece here from 1819 where they talk about the fact that Montgomery has already had 52 homicides this year. Last year, in the whole year, they had 61. So they're already closing in with several months left to go. But the reality is we're looking at how does this impact the state? This is not just about Montgomery proper. It is, but it's not just about that. Because when I was in the legislature, we were concerned about Montgomery because, like, what would happen if the Air Force, which they've talked about it, if the Air Force decided they were no longer going to send people there, that Maxwell Air Force Base was going to wind down. Well, that's the Air Force's major schoolhouse. That's where all the senior enlisted and officers go there for their executive level schooling. They bring their families there. They look for schools for their families while they're there. They will stay there from anywhere from 6 months to a year, year and a half, going through training and education. It's a pristine location in the middle of downtown. What if Maxwell Air Force Base goes away? Well, they might, because you know why? Because the military, when it looks for locations, it examines quality of life. And if your crime is through the roof and you're not doing anything to fix it, well, guess what? You got a problem. So right now, Montgomery is still on the hot seat. And there's a lot of talk right now about whether or not the legislature is going to have to intervene on cities like Montgomery and Birmingham, who have blue policies that do nothing to curb crime. The article that I'm looking at points out that Montgomery is not only the state capital, it's the home for 7 state constitutional officers. That's like our AG, our lieutenant governor, our governor, all of them. It's got every state agency, the Alabama legislature, and these are all people who have work they have to do on behalf of the state. And we got a crime issue like nothing you've ever seen. When we get back from this break, we're going to jump on into something that's going on. Have you heard about the Magic City Acceptance Academy? Sounds like a nice place. Do they have unicorns for a mascot? The Magic City Acceptance Academy. Wait a minute. Do you know what that is? I'll tell you all about it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
In a division for me that one day I'd have Rolls Royces and live behind gates and all this crazy stuff. And then later, you know, as a teenager, Ric Flair did promos on TBS that I was watching on a VHS tape. I'm watching it in 97, but he said it in 87 that he wanted to live in the biggest house on the biggest hill on the big side of town. And he's got a limousine a mile long and blah, blah, blah. So he was talking about swag, as the kids would say in these rap songs today, way back then. And as a 15, 16-year-old, it was like, yeah, that all sounds pretty good. I think I'd like that. And I felt like sales was maybe my ticket there. But I grew up selling, you know, I mean, I thought I would sell insurance or I would sell vacuum cleaners like my dad. But then a neighbor next door to our suite in Huntsville at the office suggested that I come sit with him one day, and he taught me about mortgages. And I'm 19 at the time.
How about that?
I don't even know that I don't know how to spell mortgage. I certainly don't know there's 2 G's in it. I would have never guessed that. But I remember looking at it and saying, okay, Jeff, I get we're saying their payment goes from $1,300 to $900. But if their payment goes down $400, how do we make money? Because as a salesperson, I was used to think of like the car scenario. If you go buy a new car, you're going to get a new payment. So I'm just thinking, wait a minute, we're not charging them more, we're charging them less. Where's the margin for us? I couldn't wrap my head around it. But once I realized, oh no, it's based on the loan value. So you're making your commission on their $300,000 mortgage. Well, as a guy who had been thinking about selling $1,500 vacuum cleaners and making a commission on that, it was like, oh, this could be quite lucrative. So I went and told Dad, hey, Dad, I think I'm going to quit and try this. And Dad and I really came to an impasse because he felt like, hey, I'm only building an outfit here in Huntsville for you to run it. I still had one in
so
Albertville.
that was Dad's company you were looking at.
Yeah, at that point, Dad had an office in Gadsden.
Wow.
He had one in Albertville. He had one in Huntsville. And I was kind of running the Huntsville one, but I was like, Dad, this is another level. So Dad didn't see it. And Dad thought, you know, it was not going to be nearly as lucrative as it was, but it afforded me the opportunity to buy my first house and buy my first Rolex. And when I was a kid, I had to have an Escalade, you know, all that silly stuff. So about a year later, Dad was like, so how do you make money with this? So eventually I got Mom in, I got Dad in, I got my cousins in, I got my uncle in, and I started First Family Mortgage because it really was everybody, my sister's here, everybody's here. So it was a fun way to sort of share that with my parents. I mean, their lifelong dream had always been to own a place in Panama City. And as I'm sitting here with you today, I can say they did it. And it was because of the mortgage business. So it's all been a positive, really fun story, man.
How about that? That is way cool. Well, listen, so all these different parts of your life. Yeah. So what's your mode? I mean, do you sleep late? Do you get up early? Are you the guy who's like already scheming before the crack of dawn, or are you the guy who works to the wee hours of the night and then sleep till 10? What's your mode? I mean, how do you structure your day to get all this done?
Well, my wife decided a couple of years ago she wanted to get into fitness, so she's training for competitions all the time.
Wow!
So I went from being the first person up to now she is. She's up at 3:30 in the morning and at the gym by 4.
No kidding.
As you may have been able to tell, I am not there at 4 in the morning. I am still asleep. But no, I'm up every day before 7 and getting after it. I always usually try to have an 8 a.m. appointment somewhere. Today it was about our big convention in Dallas. But at 9 o'clock, I did a podcast from 9 to 11. I jumped in my car, came straight here to you.
Yeah.
I've guessed that our show would be about 90 minutes. So I have a 1:30 as soon as this finishes for my ride back. And then I've got a 2:30 right behind that. And then I'll pick up a professional wrestler flying in from Mexico at the Huntsville International Airport tonight at 6:45. And I'll take him to dinner and make sure he's situated, and then take him to have some cervezas. And then we'll bring him back to the house and introduce him to the wife before she goes to bed. And we'll do it again tomorrow.
Wash, rinse, repeat.
Every single day from the minute I wake up until I go to bed, I'm doing something that makes money or is fun, or else I'm not doing it. But those are my two prerequisites. I want to have fun or make money. And if I can do both, I'm doing a lot of it.
How about that?
Yeah.
How about that? All right. Let me ask you this. Let's get into other stuff. So
Sure.
you did, Mrs. Thompson used to be a Flair.
Yes.
All right. You met Ric Flair. You told me the story. Y'all were drinking buddies and all that kind of stuff. But then you started doing a podcast together. So I'm sure that not only did you get to know him, but then you really got to work with him as well to some
Yes.
degree. So he's one of the legends of the world of pro wrestling.
Yes.
What's your craziest Ric Flair story?
None that we can tell on a fine podcast like this. But what you see is what you get with Ric Flair. His real name is Richard Fleer.
Right.
But I don't think he can differentiate between the two even now. I mean, it's wild.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. All right, I'm in home fries right now, cooking up a batch of home fries. Oh, yeah. Gonna cook them up, man. Smell them in the pan. Okay, so here's one I got to bring up before I get into the library board thing. JP. Have you ever heard of the Magic City Acceptance Academy?
I have.
Pray tell, what do you know of the Magic City Acceptance Academy?
Pretty much that they're pushing LGBTQ agenda and trying to give a safe place for indoctrination, essentially.
Yeah.
That's been my understanding.
That's pretty accurate.
And state, it's in a public school.
It's in a public school.
Yeah.
So this is a charter school. For those who don't know, a charter school is a publicly funded school, but it's got a separate charter, meaning you can do some things differently. And so they apply for a charter. We have the Alabama Public Charter School Commission is what they call it. And charter schools are supposed to be the kind like you can set up like a STEM school, where it's all science and math, or you can set up a school that's going to not have tenure and it can recruit teachers and pay them more, or you can have a charter where they're going to, anyway, the bottom line is charter schools are run differently, but they have to basically put out their business model, ask for the opportunity for a charter, show how they're going to support themselves, and then they do it with public dollars. And then there's a Magic City Acceptance Academy. I'm still trying to figure out how they got their charter. Why were they approved? Because their charter basically establishes them as a primarily LGBTQ plus student body, and their allies. LGBTQ plus and allies as a school in Birmingham. They're in Homewood, I believe. And I look at this thing, how do you have a school that's just designed for gay kids?
Yeah, that seems a little exclusionary to non-gay kids.
I guess. I mean, I can see a private school, like you can have a private girls' school.
Yeah.
You can have a private Christian school.
But
you can have a private Muslim school.
Yeah.
But a state-funded gay school?
Yeah.
I still don't know how this happened. Anyway, their charter's coming up for its annual review for renewal. So 1819 News has a story. Alabama Public Charter School Commission announced on Monday it will review the renewal of the controversial Homewood school called the Magic City Acceptance Academy. By the way, they do things like drag queen show fundraisers for the student body. They've got any number of very questionable issues. They've had kids transitioning at school with teacher help. What?
I'm shaking my head.
I know.
Guess, yeah.
With state funded dollars.
I mean, isn't it illegal, or if it's not, it should be illegal to perform child sex changes in Alabama?
Thank you.
It's almost like if a state school is pushing that on kids and like it's a safe space for kids to do that, I feel like by transitive property almost that should be either not allowed or illegal.
Well, I'm hoping that's why the charter is being reviewed.
Yeah,
because they are way, 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 way out there on the fringe, in my opinion, of what is allowed, especially with state dollars. Anyway, the investigation by 1819 News earlier this year revealed potential violations of state law and dubious deviations, it says, from state-approved curriculums. The article goes on, but they get $3.3 million, almost $3.4 million a year in state funding, and another $337,000 in federal funds. I look at that and go, how did this happen? I don't understand. Anyway, all right, we're going to be talking to a friend of mine, Amy Minton, here momentarily. She'll be on with us, but there's several things that are happening. Now, Amy Minton, by the way, is a candidate for the Alabama State Senate. I'm going to ask her about that. Of course, she's running for my old seat in District 10. But I will also tell you that Amy Minton has been on the Alabama Library Board for the last, I think, couple of years. She and Republican Party Chairman John Wall are both on there. And they have been making waves. I mean, like in no small way, making waves. And they are right now considering offering an amendment to be put into the state code that would do what they call helping safeguard children's sections from materials promoting transgender procedures and gender ideology. You know, what's interesting is I've got this piece from a news source called Alabama Reflector. Now, I will just tell you right now, Alabama Reflector is as liberal as the day is long. It's the Axios of Alabama, all right? Run by a guy named Brian Lyman, who used to work for the Montgomery Advertiser. Brian Lyman uses things like, he talks about board member Amy Minton, who happens to be running as a Republican state Senate candidate. And he went on to talk about how she's, one of those who was a belligerent crank. This is him. Belligerent cranks, wasting the library's time whining about books, mostly with LGBTQ plus characters in them. And then he goes on to say, they're zealots who don't want to have a reasoned discussion about care options. They basically fear, he said, literacy. Whatever. The end result is we're going to talk to Amy Minton and find out what decisions they're making right now, how it's going to impact state libraries overall. Is the language clear enough for the libraries to actually follow? We've done a lot. We've done a lot in state law to try and clean up some of the wokeness that was being not just like infiltrated, but thrust upon our kids. Listen, if parents want to have a conversation with their kids, I can't control that. But I can say that my state tax dollars shouldn't pay for it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, coming right back. Folks, Phil Williams here. I want to remind you that Inspire Advisors is one of our sponsors, and they are doing amazing work. Look, I know this audience. You're the kind of folks who believe in standing up for your principles. You're good stewards of your resources. But what if the companies you were investing in don't reflect your values at all? Well, that's why you need to meet Paul Breyer and his team at Inspire Advisors, because Inspire Advisors, they are experts in the field of biblically responsible investing. They can help you grow your bottom line while also be proud of what companies you're investing in. Inspire Advisors, check them out. Their website, www.moneypatternwealth.com, and tell them you heard about it on Rightside Radio.
And the brashness, as you would say, that people have. I remember walking through the Atlanta airport with him once, and a guy just pops up out of nowhere and puts his cheek against his as we're walking through the concourse and holds his phone up. Like people are taking selfies with their cheek against him. Like not even speaking to him like he's a human being, like it's a statue somewhere. It's just surreal. But I've seen a lot of that. And sometimes depending on the mood he's in, it's less than favorable for them. But he's always got plenty of time. If you're a veteran, if you're a child, if you're a special needs individual, or if you're an attractive woman, you got a shot at having a good conversation with him. If you look like me or Butters, you probably need to keep it moving.
I did see, though, some interview with you where you said that you found one of Ric Flair's robes on an online auction or something like that.
Oh, yeah. So you saw.
And you got it.
Yes. I've had several robes through the years. I was collecting these robes before I knew Rick, but
Okay.
I knew they were investment vehicles. Let me explain. If you're not familiar with pro wrestling, he used to come to the ring in something that looks like Elvis Presley or Liberace would wear it.
More like Liberace.
There you go. But you remember like the jumpsuits that Elvis wore with all the sequins everywhere and the crazy designs. Well, Flair did that, and he thought it was a big part of the presentation, and that actually went back to Gorgeous George. Gorgeous George is kind of the innovator of that.
Yeah.
And even Muhammad Ali would say he borrowed from Gorgeous George's rap. It was all just about promotion. So Flair became, I guess, the second nature boy behind Buddy Rogers, and started putting that, on some sequins on a robe, and they got more ornate and more fancy. But then one day I'm just scrolling. I'm a sports collector, so I have like an old pair of Ali's trunks and Tyson trunks, and I've got Joe Montana's jersey and just lots of silly stuff like that. But I thought from a wrestling fandom standpoint, like maybe the coolest thing you could own would be a Ric Flair robe. So I'm scrolling eBay and I found one and I couldn't believe it.
And it was legit.
It's legit. I knew it was legit. So I negotiated with the guy for the course of maybe 3 months. And then I bought a robe from him. And then when he got another one, he said, "Hey, do you want to buy this one?" Well, I negotiated and got an even better deal. So I bought that one. So through the years, I've probably had 12 different ones, but there was one that always eluded me. One that was my really first impression of Rick is when he first came to the WWF in 1991. He showed up in a black robe with white feathers, and it had silver butterflies on it. And it was on the cover of Pro Wrestling Illustrated. It was on the cover of the WWF magazine, and he wore it to the ring at the Royal Rumble in 1992.
Yeah.
And hardcore wrestling fans would say that's the greatest Rumble of all time. It had the most legends. The winner became the champion, and Flair became the first guy to ever win the WWF title and the NWA title. It was a big deal. It would be like if all of a sudden, Babe Ruth, wasn't with the Yankees and now he's with the Red Sox sort of thing. It's like, oh my gosh, this is a big deal. And that robe, nobody could find for years and years and years.
Had Rick sold it? Had it been stolen?
Nobody knew.
Oh, wow.
Now, Flair had a bunch of robes stolen from locker rooms and dressing rooms and airports. All he knew, and even ex-wives. But he did say, "Hey, I don't know where it is, so it's clearly stolen because I didn't sell it." Well, it turns out the story we've heard is he forgot after a Monday Nitro in 1995 and left it hanging in the closet in Johnson City, Tennessee at a Holiday Inn. And they didn't know how to get a hold of him because in 1995, it's not like everybody had cell phones like they do now.
Right.
So somebody just kept it. Well, while they were filming Most Wanted Treasures for A&E, which is a WWE program, they found it. Well, it turns out the guy who wound up seeing the auction on eBay, he actually had a program set up to track when anything Ric Flair related was listed, because he had found some interesting things through the years that way.
So the dude had his own algorithm for searching Ric Flair stuff.
He did. Wow. And he found this robe before anybody, and he bought it dirt cheap relative to its value. But I knew the guy because this little circle of high-end wrestling collectors is pretty small. There's probably 6 major ones. There's a lot of others on the periphery.
Are you one of the 6?
I used to be. I'm not as active in it as I was. I found that I've gotten close enough now that my fandom has changed a little bit. I just view it differently and I appreciate it differently. That's not to say I still don't have a pretty damn impressive collection. I do. But I'm just saying I'm no longer actively looking for the next thing, if that makes sense. Yeah. But there's still a few things out there that, boy, if I could find that. But it's less about what else can I add to the collection and more about what are my grail pieces, if that makes sense.
Right.
Well, for years and years, I'd called out on podcasts because I would even watch along. I think in 2022, I watched, maybe it was before that, but on an anniversary date, I watched with Ric Flair that Royal Rumble back again. And I said into the microphone, "Hey, if anybody can find that, I'd be glad to get you a brand new Forerunner." I mean, like my DMs are open. Here's my email address. Anytime that robe came up, I threw it out there. Well, this fellow knew because we had done robe deals together that I was interested. So he reached out to me and we worked a deal out and we sort of recreated it for the TV show. That's not exactly how it happened, but it's pretty close. But either way, he got a wire, which was almost as much as I spent for my first house. And now I have the robe.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Good
but
Lord.
There's only a handful of things that I really, really wanted. And I had already achieved accidentally. My first wrestling collectible was the big gold belt. And it's the one that Ric Flair debuted on Valentine's Day, 1986. But they used it all the way through the end of WCW in 2001. So the same belt that he wore and Dusty Rhodes wore and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Sting is the same belt that like Hulk Hogan with the NWO played air guitar with on Nitro and Goldberg beat him. And the idea that I was able to find that, I thought, man, this would be like finding, like the Super Bowl trophy. They make a new one every year. This is like the Stanley Cup of
Wait, I'm
professional
taking
wrestling.
it back. They make a new one every year.
Well, yeah. If you go to Robert Kraft's office, I'm sure he's got a bunch of those trophies.
He's still got his
sitting
trophy.
around.
Yeah.
Yes. But I'm saying this one, they didn't make a bunch of copies of. Like, that was the NWA belt. In the WWF, like, they just make like 5 or 6 a year. So there's just several of them that have this design. But this particular belt was 3 pieces of metal and 1 strip of leather, and it was used from 86 to 2001. So when I found that, I was like, this is like the coolest collectible ever. The second coolest would be if I could find Ric Flair's 1992 Royal Rumble robe. And when I did, I was like, oh, I got to put them together.
Okay, so, but now I got to chase this rabbit then real quick. 2 questions. What is the most coveted piece of your personal collection of any kind of sports? Because I heard you say you're a big sports collector in general. The dude just said solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 2 on a Taco Tuesday, because it's always about the food. But yeah, we're going to go to the phones right now. So I'm doing a section of home fries, right? I'm telling you about stories that I think are important to where you are right here in our own backyard, so to speak. Things that are happening in and around and amongst us, like I always say. But somebody who's in the thick of it right now on a story that, go figure, it's controversial, but libraries, is my friend Amy Minton. And Amy Minton, by the way, is from Rainbow City. She's been a member of the Etowah County Republican Party's leadership for a number of years. She is now also currently running for the Alabama State Senate for my old district, actually, my old district being District 10. But she's also a member of the Alabama Public Library Service Board. And they're in the middle of some stuff right now. So let me quit talking and bring her on. Amy Minton, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me, Phil.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. And thanks for what you're doing, my friend. Did you ever have any idea when you got appointed to the library board how controversial it was going to be?
No, I did not. And I will start off, before we get into any discussion, I always like to start off any talk I have by saying, I firmly believe John 3:16 and 17.
There you go.
For God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whosoever believes in him would not perish, but will have eternal life. And then I love verse 17. It says, for God did not send his son to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. And I like to say that because anytime I talk about library books or any issues, the transgender, gender, ideology, I always like to say I am not trying to point a finger at anyone. God loves us all. And so I just wanted to get that out there at the very beginning. No matter what we've done or where we've been, or God will forgive us.
That's good. And I appreciate that a lot. I appreciate that very much. I'll tell you, too, I was on one of my recent CNN gigs, and I was talking with a guy named Van Latham, I've been on with several times. He's an avowed liberal, but in our course of our conversation, Van said something like, basically insinuating that if God is love, then how is it that people can say that that's wrong and that's wrong? And I said, you're trying to equate the idea of love as having no accountability. And I love my kids growing up, but I still had to tell them when they shouldn't do something or why to stay away from that thing because it's harmful. And, love means pointing out things and then holding people accountable sometimes. And you can do that in love.
Yes. And, it comes down to really, I firmly believe the Bible exactly what it says. In Genesis 1:27 says that God made male and female. He didn't say he made a Z or a zer or a they or a them. It says male and female. Yep. So again, I go back to the Bible and I firmly believe that.
Well, somebody who apparently doesn't love you very much is Brian Lyman from the Alabama Reflector, who said that you're one of the belligerent cranks who's wasting library times worrying about books.
Yes, I've heard that a lot, and I really have heard that a lot. And I would always invite anybody that wants to talk to me one-on-one or personally. I would be glad to talk to anyone because, like I said, any person that is confused about who they are, whether it be body image as far as the shape of their body, the size of their body, or gender dysphoria, I have great compassion for them. And as a matter of fact, I worked for 4 years at UAB on the psychiatric ward with people with eating disorders and issues such as that, mental health disorders. And so this is not at all about pointing a finger saying, I think one person
right.
is bad and I hate them. It is exactly the opposite.
And I think
It
we all know
reminds me
that. I think we all know that, but I don't want to run out of time talking about why we're
Yeah.
not hating people. Let's talk about what it is y'all are trying to do. So,
Okay.
what is it the library board is having to deal with right now? I know it's to do with clarifying language, and there's also something to do with Fairhope's library. So where are we right now?
Yes. Okay, so last year we passed the sexually explicit definitions, and
Right.
we said because sexually explicit topics are very sensitive to children, and parents should be in charge of when they want their children to see much of this material. Now, some of this material is very graphic as far as the books that were in our children's section and still are in a few of the public library sections that show how to use sex toys, how to perform certain sex acts. And we just felt like that parents need to be in charge of when they want their children to be exposed to these topics.
Yeah.
So as far as sexually explicit, we said move them to the adult section. Now, what a lot of people want to say is, oh, these topics, for example, rape, a child needs to see that. A 14, 17-year-old needs to read about that. Well, I would argue that there are books that discuss rape that also don't have 5 pages describing the graphic detail of the
Amen.
sex acts performed on them.
Yes, exactly.
And so
right.
that's the issue. Yes, that's the issue.
Well,
now, what
did the language, the language, I mean, I know that some of the libraries have tried to say, well, it's unclear. We don't know what you mean. What exactly is, sexually explicit? And so you guys are trying to define that even further now, right?
Yes. In Alabama Code 13A-190, Alabama Code 13A-200 has a lot of clear wording as far as what is sexually explicit, but we went further just to help clarify because so many of the libraries were saying, what do you mean by that? So we sent out a list of sexually explicit terms. And John Wall, the chairman of the Republican Party, sent it out to every library. So there should be no confusion.
There you go.
And they want to say, is this book okay when it talks about graphically about masturbation or about sex acts? And we're like, is the word on this list? If it is, move it to the adult section. So that is what we decided last year. Now is a different topic, and we are currently in the public comment period until 4:30 today. And so that's why I appreciate you letting me come on the show today, because if anyone wants to speak at the public hearing, which is scheduled for October the 21st, if anyone wants to write in and have a public comment, they have to do that by 4:30 today.
Okay.
So they could call APLS. They could send an email into thcar@apls.state.al.us, which is basically the APLS email address, or they can go on the link that you all sent out today, cleanupalabama.org, and sign electronically, as long as they do it before 4:30 today.
So let me refresh a little bit of that real quick, Amy. So you did provide us that link, and JP sent out our daily newsletter earlier that goes out to thousands of our Rightside ruffians, and they all got. So anybody who got our daily email blast, you should have a link now if you want to sign up or be a part of this discussion on what is sexually explicit or not, and provide your own public comment. So that link did go out through our newsletter.
Okay. And also, if they don't get the newsletter, they can just go to cleanupalabama.org and they can assign electronically. They just have to do it before 4:30 today is the only thing.
Okay.
The difference in the sexually explicit terms that we sent out last time, and the reason we're having another public hearing is because this is specific to gender ideology. The reason a lot of them were calling out me and saying they hated me was because I actually wrote the proposal. And what it has to do with is now we have the What is a Woman Act. It recognizes only two sexes,
That's
male
right.
and female, is objective and fixed, clinically verified at birth based on reproductive anatomy. So why in the world do we need tax dollars paying for books that tell children that they can change their sex? If they don't like who they were born, if they were born Jack, they can change to Jackie. If they were Melissa, they can change to George. And give you an example, in Jefferson County, if you go to their card catalog, you will see 890 books on gender ideology and transgenderism that was paid for by our tax dollars. And that's just Jefferson County alone. So that's that's one of the issues. The other thing is we have the Alabama Vulnerable Child Compassion and Protection Act. Like, why do we want books that are telling them they can have surgeries and change their gender when it is against Alabama state law?
That's right.
There's a book called Parts and Hearts in the second grade or in the children's section at Fairhope right now. And it tells children, it has little graphic pictures of little kids, and it's saying if you don't like the way you were born, you can go to the doctor, take medicine, have surgery, and then you'll be happy. And so it's just pushing a false narrative and just teaching children. It reminds me of the lobotomies of the 60s when they thought the idea was to cut off people's brains that had schizophrenia. Well, now we go, my goodness, that was terrible. Well, this is my fear with so much of this transgender and gender ideology that's being pushed on our children. It's a false narrative. It does not bring happiness and satisfaction until you're happy on the inside.
Well, and I've said several times on this show, the only gender affirming they need is to be affirmed in how they were made, how they were born. If you want to affirm a child, tell them that they're fearfully and wonderfully made, and don't tell them they're broken from the day they're born and they have to get fixed.
Yes, exactly.
All right, look, real quick, I want to before we run to a break here. By the way, can you hang on during a break because I still want to talk to you about some other stuff too.
Yes.
All right, before we go to the break, I want to ask this. You mentioned Fairhope. Fairhope appears to be the center of gravity for resistance to all the changes y'all are bringing. So what is it what's the deal with Fairhope with about 45 seconds here? What's going on there?
So we are not banning books. We're not burning books. We have given clear direction. If you want funding from the state of Alabama, we've given clear definitions. If books contain the topics of sexually explicit material that we gave clear wording on, then we will not fund those libraries. So they have the list, and yet they still choose to keep some of these books in their children and young adult section. And so we paused their funding and gave them time to look at these books and hopefully move them all to the adult section. As of the last meeting, they still had about 6 that the parents had requested be moved that they decided, again, to keep in the children's section, that have graphic pictures of sex acts, how to use sex toys and such as that.
What's their justification, Amy? I mean, when they look at this, what is their justification for saying we feel comfortable leaving this in the kids section? I mean, how do they explain it away?
They say that it does not cause sexual excitement by obscenity, the definition of obscenity. But the fact is, our definitions don't just say obscenity. It also says sexually explicit. So they're just looking at one part of the code.
Yeah.
And they have to look at all of it. And so, again, we're not trying to ban these books. We're just saying move it to the adult section so a parent can decide when they want their child to see
Well,
it.
Fairhope is
to put the parents in charge.
That's exactly right. And Fairhope's a beautiful town, but there's a cancer down there too. All right, my friend, hang on. We got to take a break. It's mandatory, so we'll take that break. Come right back. I want to talk to you about you're running for my old Senate seat. So I want to hear about your campaign in a minute. All right, hang on.
Awesome.
We're on the line with Amy Minton, who is like duking it out with wokeness on our state library board and running for the state Senate also. Y'all stay tuned. More with that. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back. And what is the one thing that's still out there that, by God, you haven't found it yet, but you're gonna?
That's easy. The big gold belt's number one.
All right.
That's not close. I've been offered 6 figures for
Is it hanging on a wall in a shadow box, or is it locked in a safe deposit box?
WWE has it right now. They just had WrestleMania, and they wanted to display it. They put Lex Luger in the Hall of Fame finally, and that's a belt that he famously beat on the 100th Nitro.
You are Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
So he called, the archivist from WWE called and said, "Can I borrow the belt?" And I said, "Absolutely. We've done it a dozen times before."
Yeah.
So they have it right now, so it's on loan.
Okay.
But normally, it's at my house.
So what have you not found? What is the
one I haven't found?
What is the thing that if you could track it down?
The WrestleMania 4 or 5 or 6 Winged Eagle Championship, the world title that was worn by Hulk Hogan, the Ultimate Warrior, or the Macho Man. The reason I'm specific about those 3 is they were dual plated, so it was nickel and gold. Starting at WrestleMania 6, every belt after that and through WrestleMania 14 was like all gold. But the look of that one, because that's when I really fell in love, was WrestleMania 5. The first WrestleMania I saw was on a double tape VHS at my grandfather's house. Once upon a time, we used to go to like movie gallery. Remember those days?
Man, yeah.
And so that's what my parents did. They were like, hey, this is a double tape set. This will be a heck of a babysitter for our 7-year-old annoying son. So I got to watch WrestleMania 4 and fell in love with pro wrestling. I had never seen it before. I was a G.I. Joe He-Man guy. So now to be able to see this was like, this is like a real life cartoon. I'm in. So if I could have the world title that one of those guys held when I first fell in love with wrestling, that would be it. But I've never found one person who has one or can even say they've seen it. So it's still out there somewhere, but I'll find it eventually. Time's on my side.
Can you find me the glasses that Roddy Piper wore in the movie They're Here, and that shows him where the aliens
They
are?
live.
They live. That's
Yes.
right. They live.
I might
sorry.
be able to find that. No, seriously, there is a niche collector. I know 2 people who would know where that is.
No kidding.
Yeah. The Underground Railroad of Wrestling Collectibles. Here I am as the Forrest Gump of that too.
All right, let me ask you a couple quick questions about your knowledge of the wrestling industry, shall we say?
Sure.
Massive stage events. Has there ever been a time, because I like we had the thing with John Cena just had the big event, right?
Yep. WrestleMania.
It's like his closing, like the closure of his career, correct?
He's announced this is his farewell tour. His last day in the professional wrestling business will be December 31st, 2025.
What I've seen as a casual observer, and that's where I am. I'm a casual observer. But what I've seen as a casual observer is they weave storylines, and the storylines have sometimes a beginning and an end, but at the very least, the fans know what the storyline is, or they're given the trailer that tells them why there may be more coming.
Yes.
That being said, is there ever been, in your study of the history, has there been one where like they never got closure? Like something happened and that character, if you will, never got the actual. All right, so what would you bring closure to if you could? Like I know you organize events. I know you've been a part of like Ric Flair's final.
Yes.
And you've seen some other big events and you've got StarCast and other things you work with. Event-wise, if you could bring closure in time, anybody, who would it be?
You're saying we have a time machine?
Yes.
Hulk Hogan's last match.
Hulk Hogan's.
It was a 6-man tag in Europe. It wasn't promoted as being his last match. I don't think he knew it would be his last match, but that's the way the cookie crumbled. It wasn't even filmed. It was just for the people in that building. I think it was Germany. I could be wrong, but somewhere in Europe, maybe it was London. I don't know, but somewhere, not America, no television cameras, not pay-per-view. Hulk Hogan's last match would have been pretty damn big. And it's a shame we missed that, but
And it probably should have been big.
it would have been incredibly big. Yeah.
So he's still alive.
Yeah, but he's no longer.
He's also what? In his
He
60s, I guess.
respectfully, he walks with a cane now. I mean,
Yeah.
we couldn't physically do it.
Well,
But he's still. I don't know if you saw, but just yesterday, as we're recording this, he was on Fox and Friends announcing his new promotion, Real American Freestyle. So it's not pro wrestling, but it is pro wrestling. I mean that to say it's not sports entertainment like WWE. But if you were an incredible amateur wrestler in the ranks of the NCAA, but you decide you don't want to get punched in the face and learn jiu-jitsu, so your goal isn't UFC, and you don't really want to follow Kurt Angle's footsteps and become a sports entertainer with WWE, you just want to continue to pursue and compete in your lifelong passion of amateur wrestling. How would you do that and make a living at that? Well, as of 2 days ago, there was no way to do that. But they just announced yesterday Real American Freestyle. So I imagine there will be profile pieces like you might have seen on American Idol or The Voice, where you understand guys' motivations and their why. So we get to see them at home or training, or what's going on with their little girl, or what was their childhood like. Or we're going to try to make the characters more relatable than just, hey, here's this random guy in blue tie.
and we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just pulling pins on truth grenades, y'all. That's what we're doing. Hey, real quick, JP, you said something a minute ago. What you got?
Yeah, I dropped the link for Clean Up Alabama in the comments on our live stream. So if you're watching on our live stream on YouTube or Facebook, it should be in the comments on there. Y'all go check it out.
Outstanding. You do amazing things.
Oh, thank you.
All right, let me go back to the phones real quick. Amy Minton is from Rainbow City. She is on the state library board, and she's also, by the way, now a candidate for State Senate District 10. So this is my old district. And I am somewhat biased in the fact that I want somebody really solid and conservative in there. Amy Minton, are you that person?
I am, and I have thoroughly enjoyed going out meeting so many wonderful people in Etowah, Cherokee, and Southern DeKalb counties.
Yeah.
And so, you know, just like your lovely Charlene says, there are more of us than there are of them.
That's right.
And there's so many wonderful people that I have been thrilled to go out and meet.
Well, that, I mean, I think, you know, campaigning is hard, but campaigning is also a lot of fun because, like you said, I mean, I can remember, like, you and I were talking the other day, you were going over to, I think, the Glencoe football game. And I used to stand outside the ticket line and just work the line, and I'd see 150 people in 30 minutes.
Oh yeah.
But so how's it going? I mean, you got 2.5 to 3 counties there to campaign in. How do you feel about things?
Oh, I feel wonderful. Like I said, so many wonderful people. And the reason I'm running, I will say I've been married for 35 years to my husband, Dr. Maury Minton. He's a medical doctor, but he was also a U.S. Marine. And you know, once they say, once a Marine, always a Marine.
Semper
So
Fi.
we have lived a veteran and military life. And so I understand and I support veterans. The guys I'm running against have not been in the military. And so I think that is one thing I do bring to the table is that I have an understanding of military and the military family. I've raised 2 children. One benefit of being older is you've learned a lot of life experiences. And I believe firmly in servant leadership. And I've helped my husband get through medical school, through the Marine Corps, and raised 2 children and helped them. My daughter's a radiologist at Mayo Hospital. My son is an aerospace engineer with the Golden Dome. And so those are examples, I believe, of servant leadership where I've helped them to reach their potential. And that's what I want to do for everybody in this district. I want to work for you. I want to work for our mayors, for our city council, our county commissioners. I want everybody in this district to succeed. And that is my belief is servant leadership. I'm not in this to be a politician. I'm in this to help small businesses, farmers, and just everyone that is trying to succeed at life. I want to find ways I can help the individual citizen in this district.
Well, and let me ask you, I got to say, you got a major endorsement the other day because Alpha, which is the Alabama Farmers Association, they have endorsed you, which is a big deal because that only happens. They don't endorse from Montgomery. They endorse based upon local leadership in the Farmers Federation, actually saying this is who we want. So you got the Alpha endorsement. Am I right?
Yes, and I was humbled and honored to receive the Alpha endorsement. And I mean, if you can't stand for farmers, that you know there is something wrong because they are the salt of our earth. And so many things that haven't been done. For example, the SNAP program. Do you know right now, rotisserie chickens, like our poultry farmers, rotisserie chickens are not even approved on the SNAP, whereas you can get, you know, marquita mix on it. Margarita mix on it, but you can't get rotisserie chickens. And so there's so many ways that I can help, I believe, help our farmers, help them with the problems with deer running all over their land, eating their corn, help them with fertilizer and just many things, many issues from row croppers to poultry farmers to all of our farmers. I'm eager to stand for them in any way I can.
Well, we got about 10 seconds here. If you've got a website or something you want people to go find out more about you, where would it be?
Yes, it is Amy Minton for AlabamaSenate.com.
Is that with a number 4 or the FOR 4?
FOR.
Okay.
Amy Minton for AlabamaSenate.com.
All right.
And just know I will always stand for private property owners like the Indian Mountain ATV Park. I will always stand for small business and just for the average individual person to have less regulation, less government, and less taxes.
All right, my friend, got to go there. The break's upon us, but you take care. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. See ya. That's Amy Minton running for Alabama State Senate, but she's also on the library board. If you want to click on that link and do what she said, sort of get your input in there, please do that. You go to cleanupalabama.org. Bill Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back.
This random guy in green tights. And they're going to have the pyro and the smoke and the screens and the big time presentation like you would see at a WWE or a UFC, but it'll be different because it will be more amateur wrestling style. So it's called Real American Freestyle. And it just so happens that Hulk Hogan's theme song in wrestling was Real American by Rick Derringer, and his beer is Real American Beer. So I'm sure there's connective tissue there for marketing purposes, but Hogan and my pal Eric Bischoff are behind it, and they're having their first event in Cleveland on August 30th.
And he's still Thunder Lips to some.
Absolutely. Forever Thunder Lips.
Speaking of movies, so if you've seen it, to me, one of the saddest movies that had a genuine sense of feel to it would be The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke.
Yes.
You seen that one?
I have, yes, sir.
Does that have a sense of accuracy to it?
In 1,000,000%.
Really?
Yeah. The
tragedy story, for those who don't know, of a guy who had trouble leaving behind his wrestling life when his body wouldn't let him keep up, and other events in life as matter.
Well, yeah, specifically, he put wrestling in front of everything, including marriages, including his responsibilities as a father, his financial well-being, his own physical well-being.
It was his identity.
It was.
He lost everything else because of it.
And he couldn't let go of that feeling and the dream, and he hung on too long. And I think, that was the reality for a lot of professional wrestlers. But guys who may have been in that situation or circumstance 15 years ago when that movie came out, they're not now because of the rebirth of nostalgia, which I do think in large part is because of podcasting.
Podcasting and the internet give it a second life.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Like you and I could put together, I don't know if you saw, but as we're recording just last week, they did a pop culture expo in Huntsville. Well, there weren't a ton of stars who have a hit show on NBC this week at that event. It was, My Name is Earl, which was on NBC 20 years ago. Yeah. So nostalgia is very much in fashion. They did, the guy from Ghostbusters was there. I mean, and that movie came out 40 some odd years ago. So nostalgia is very, very marketable right now. So if the Mickey Rourke character, Randy the Ram was his character's name. Yeah. If he was around today, Randy the Ram would still be making 6 figures working 2 days a week. He'd make more today than he did when he was actually wrestling.
How about that?
Yeah. So it's a lot better now.
Well, the Randy the Ram character was legit in terms of its realism. I mean, right. I watched that, and it was one of those movies that kind of left me just feeling almost crestfallen for the guy as I watched it. But there's also some amazing personalities in the industry. They have to be. They're all larger than life to some degree, whether they're on the pro or the con side. Whether they're the bad guy or the good guy in the ring at that particular moment. They've all got this incredible persona, and then they've got some that bring the character to life with makeup and more additional Ric Flair style. Yes. That being said, there's some crazy athleticism in there too.
Oh, the best athletes in the world.
There's no way to fake some of what happens. I mean, people can look at it and go, how much of that is real? Well, did you just do a double gainer off the ropes and land in the crowd and walk away from it? Nobody else could. So athletics. How much of what you see in the industry right now is like bona fide athletics, and who is the greatest athlete in wrestling?
Well,
athlete.
That's a great question. I want to say the greatest athlete in the history of wrestling might be Kurt Angle.
Okay.
Kurt Angle won the Olympic gold medal in wrestling for the United States in 1996, and he did it with a broken neck. And the way he was able to do that is he would train to failure, and when the muscles failed in his body and they were no longer firing, that's when he would really start training.
Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Covering down on some major ground. I'm talking about radio. It's got a big old footprint. I'm talking about y'all. There's a whole bunch of you that do podcasting. And I'm talking about a whole lot of y'all that do live streaming. The bottom line, you guys, listen, wherever it is you catch this show, whether it be on radio, podcast, live stream, whatever the case may be, the fact is that you do means the world to us. We appreciate you. The only reason why we get behind this microphone is because of y'all. So you are much appreciated. Thank you very much. Let me get a few text messages here. Brad from Limestone County says, Phil, is actually doubtful that the Orson Welles War of the Worlds incident really happened. What? He said there's an episode of the Red Pilled America podcast called Faking the News. They investigated the incident and found out there's very little evidence for something that supposedly led to such a panic. It was cooked up by a newspaper. Come on, man. you had tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of witnesses who listened to it. It was why is this even a discussion? Okay, thank you very much. Chris from Gadsden says, I think the question of whether or not God loves us was settled on the cross 2,000 years ago. I would agree with you, sir. Thank you very much. David from Huntsville says, Phil, this is an observation related to the shutdown. Okay, we're not talking about that, but all right. He says 1.5 trillion would cost each American 4.5 thousand. That's a lot of health insurance that I'm paying for somebody else. Why not just make tithing a legal requirement? I'm not sure where to go there. Thank you, David. Pastor Dave from Indiana says, I watched a video of two Antifa members fighting each other. They'll turn on one another as long as this administration keeps the pressure on them. You know what? Yeah, I agree. And then we got a brand spanking new texter, Brad from Decatur, says, I would say that Mossad will know where every prisoner is at all times and what they eat at every meal. Brad from Decatur. I agree. I was saying yesterday, was it yesterday? That
you were talking to Jeff, I think.
I think they ought to go ahead and microchip them all.
Yeah.
Just like your puppy dog, just go ahead and microchip those Palestinians before you turn them over and then let it be. But yeah, Brad, by the way, thanks for joining the text lines, Brad. We're glad of it. Hey, so I'm going to take it aside here and take a moment of personal privilege. I take note of the fact that as I'm watching the screens here in the studio, that we are about to have a massive ceremony to award Charlie Kirk the Medal of Freedom. And they're doing this, was that in the Rose Garden?
The Rose Garden, yeah. The
new improved.
Yeah, the paved over patio in the Rose Garden so that they can have events like this.
Yeah, and nobody's actually standing in the mud or the grass right now. Ladies, the high heels are not sinking into the turf. I did not know, but I heard that it was always so boggy after a rain that they've had to resod it multiple times.
Oh, yeah, I bet. I mean, I've obviously never been, but that doesn't seem very convenient to have events like that in grass with weather as a factor. So
yeah,
I think that's much better.
Well, this is significant. So for those who don't know, the Presidential Medal of Freedom is the highest award given to a civilian. And it's awarded by the president. And it's a really big deal. Hey, can you look up who all has received the presidential? And there'll be some we don't agree with because there are Democrats who are in office too. I think Oprah Winfrey got it, and I don't know, maybe she's important, I guess. I think Rush Limbaugh got it before he died. Charlie Kirk is being awarded it today posthumously. My understanding is his wife will be there, Erica Kirk, to receive it. What kind of list you see?
A lot.
Okay.
A lot of people.
Give me a few names.
Well, there's been 8 former presidents that have received it. Kennedy posthumously, LBJ posthumously, Reagan, Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, H.W. Bush, Clinton, and Biden. He won it as vice president with distinction. But then I'm seeing a bunch of, there's a long list here. I'll look at civilians.
Yeah, I wonder who the non-politicos are that got it. Charlie Kirk would fall into that one. He never ran for office. And didn't have a college degree, and changed the lay of the land, really changed the political landscape. I mean, just like literally came in and just created change. Who do you see?
I'm not seeing many. I'm trying to find a list of non-politicians here.
To have it ordered by date, I bet you'll find Rush Limbaugh there towards the
seeing, okay, so here's a list of civilians. I see a couple of on here. Pope Francis got one in 2025. Steve Jobs won one. Magic Johnson won one. Let's see. John McCain won one. Bill Nye won one.
Bill Nye?
Bill Nye won one.
The science guy?
Yep, that'd be Bill Nye, the science guy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh, George Soros won one.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So there's definitely someone here that we don't agree with.
That was a Biden giveaway right there. That was hey, George, thanks for all the funding.
Yeah.
Ding. Here's your medal.
Lou Holtz won one. Rush Limbaugh. There's Rush Limbaugh. Elvis Presley won one in 2018 posthumously. So Tiger Woods, Jerry West. So yeah.
Well, this is a big deal for Charlie Kirk, and I obviously, since the discretion lies with the president as to who to give it to, different administrations are going to have different views. It doesn't require a vote of Congress. It's basically a special. And what I hate seeing is when they water it down by giving away too many of them.
Exactly.
And Biden was notorious for that. Obama was notorious for that.
Yeah.
Clinton was notorious for that. I mean, we saw some medals of honor being given like to groups when they were in office. But that being said, this is a big deal. In the Rose Garden today, Charlie Kirk posthumously receiving the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
And by the way, I don't think you mentioned this earlier, but on what would have been his 32nd birthday.
On his 32nd birthday.
So his first heavenly birthday. So there's that. They actually had to move it to the Rose Garden because of the amount of people that were going to show up. So I think that speaks. I mean, we've seen after the fact how many people have spoken greatly about Charlie, but I think the amount of people that have shown up today is just another example of how many lives he touched.
Well, the president's coming out now. So here's the president and Erica Kirk coming to the podium, and he is about to. What an amazing thing for her too. I mean, she just lost her. I mean, I know I'm opining. I feel like I'm one of those pundits that's like, doing the whole live stream thing, while we're on TV. I guess is what I'm doing on radio. But I'm giving you a blow by blow. The president's taking the podium right now. Erica Kirk just went to sit in the front row in a packed Rose Garden. I mean, there's got to be several hundred people in attendance here, which looks like it's a beautiful day. But Trump is going to award this to her, and you hate to see this kind of thing happen posthumously. That's painful in a way, because I saw something not long ago that really just struck me as being important, and it was when the surviving members of Led Zeppelin were actually honored at the Kennedy Center, and it was amazing. And we had this ensemble, band play "Stairway to Heaven" with a huge chorus in the background and all of it. And somebody who posted it said, and you could see the emotion in their eyes. And somebody said, "This is why we should honor people while they're still living."
Exactly. I'll always give people their flowers. It's like how I was happy that Ozzy got to have his one last go around, like, what was it, 3 weeks before he passed? Yeah. So it's, it's never too early to give somebody their flowers or appreciation, because you never know. Tragic stuff can always happen.
Sure enough. All right. Well, listen, if we pick up any special comments out of this, we'll pass them on to you. But right now, President Trump's just now taken with the flags, just kind of in a gentle breeze right behind him there in the Rose Garden of the White House. And the guy's like indefatigable. He just came back from the Middle East. He's already meeting with world leaders. He met with the president of Argentina a little while ago. Now he's awarding the Medal of Freedom. And, he's going to meet with Zelensky on Friday. Hey, what else can we cram in? Let's find something. We can do something big. I'm sure we can. All that to say, we got huge doings going on at the White House. And it's just a whole different White House right now. It's just a whole different White House.
His actual life, actual stuff going on.
Oh my gosh. It's so refreshing. All right, we're gonna jump on into the next dipper here. I'm gonna go ahead and say we'll take a break about a minute earlier than usual. So you go ahead and queue up for the break there, JP. But the reality is, I've got some stuff here, some of which is gonna curl your hair, y'all. I mean, like when you read through this stuff and you find that wokeness, this wokeness, all the wokeness. Next thing you know, I got to do another episode of Adventures in Woke World. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Folks, Bill Williams here. I want to remind you that Inspire Advisors is one of our sponsors, and they are doing amazing work. Look, I know this audience. You're the kind of folks who believe in standing up for your principles. You're good stewards of your resources. But what if the companies you were investing in don't reflect your values at all? Well, that's why you need to meet Paul Breyer and his team at Inspire Advisors. Because Inspire Advisors, they are experts in the field of biblically responsible investing. They can help you grow your bottom line while also be proud of what companies you're investing in. Inspire Advisors, check them out. Their website, www.moneypatternwealth.com, and tell them you heard about it on Rightside Radio.
Trained to failure and then stop, he would persist. His ability to focus and block out the pain was at times his best friend when it came to his athletic pursuits. But now, as an older gentleman, he's paying the price for that. He's had a double knee replacement. I don't know a lot of guys who have not just a double knee replacement, but at the same time. But like his brain is like, well, I don't want to have to be out, 9 months with one knee and 9 months with another. Let's just do them both. And that requires relearning how to walk completely, but he did it. So it's probably Kurt Angle as far as the best athlete, but the athletes of today are even, by and large, as a rule, even more athletic than they used to be, because we know so much more about diet and nutrition, and the schedule is a lot looser than it used to be. Back in Ric Flair's day, he would legitimately have a schedule that would make your mind melt. 300 days a year, never home,
On the road constantly.
in a different hotel. And in that era, it's not like you had your smartphone that had all of your itinerary. He traveled with a paper clip of airline tickets. I mean, it was just, and back then people don't even think about this. He's lugging those big robes around. Luggage didn't even have wheels on it. I mean, so just you're all.
I said that to my wife recently. Whoever came up with wheels on a suitcase was a genius.
Genius. Give that man all the credit.
Yeah.
So yeah, the athleticism is definitely different today because people don't have to. I mean, you got to think about it. If you're a professional athlete like Ric Flair back then, you're in the main event, which means you're going on last. So you can't go out there and wrestle for an hour if you just had a heavy dinner. So now you've got to figure out how to eat afterwards. Well, if you're not leaving the arena until 11:30 at night, not a lot of great healthy options to go choose from. Mm-hmm. But he managed to find a way to do it through that. But he also did it with a ton of beer and a ton of alcohol and a ton of booze. And well, the wrestlers today don't do that. Now, they have a separate suitcase with all their meal prep. So there's the little individual containers they're going to slide in the microwave. Well, Flair didn't have the ability to do that. Everybody didn't have a microwave, and there weren't meal delivery services. So you have much better conditioned athletes. Like you take a look at my sister-in-law. Her real name's Ashley, but she wrestles for WWE as Charlotte Flair.
Okay.
She's in phenomenal shape, but she was a personal trainer before she got into wrestling. So, I mean, the athletes of today are just far superior to what they used to be. However, what draws the most money in wrestling is personality.
Yeah.
It's not the athleticism or the stunts.
I see that.
But the thing about the
showmanship is still there.
Oh, it has to be.
Yeah.
But the fake word that you were talking about, the results are predetermined, but that doesn't necessarily affect your enjoyment. And I've had this conversation with people who are like, well, no, that's stupid. Like, if you know what's going to happen at the end, why do you watch? Well, did you watch Titanic?
That's right.
Did you reckon the boat wasn't going down? Like, is Rocky not going to win at the end? Like, what do you think's going to happen in these movies? Like, why would you waste your time on that silliness? The action, no, they're not punching each other full force in the face. But the ring is not a trampoline. It's reinforced steel, crisscrossed, and then with wooden slats all along it. I'm talking about like the wood that's in your house that holds it up and keeps it from caught.
Now, there's got to be a lot of ice packs and Bengay after each one of those rounds.
It's unbelievable. They did a study on this a few years ago on the Science Channel, and they said that every bump, so when a guy just falls flat of his back, they teach you things like you want to throw your arms out to distribute the weight so you don't just take it all in one spot. You want to tuck your chin so you don't give yourself a concussion, things like that. But they said every time that you fall like that, it's the equivalent of being in a 35-mile-an-hour car wreck. Well, my sister-in-law at WrestleMania, she maybe was in 45 car wrecks in the course of 20 minutes. Like, when you just think about it that way, it's like, okay, I get it. It's different.
Well, I mean, so my version of relating to that is I was a paratrooper.
Yeah.
And I've got 3 fused vertebrae in my neck.
Oh, wow.
Even though I was trained how to roll.
Yes.
And every single jump was to some degree widely controlled, but there's no way to account for everything.
That's right.
And that tree comes up and you don't have a thing to do about it. You just got to land. And, so I am certain that there's guys who are walking away from rings who aren't going to be able to wrestle the next night at times from what I've been watching.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Adam Copeland, who used to wrestle for WWE under the name Edge, he did an interview earlier this week, and he says after a match, he's around the 50-year-old.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. All right, we're heading on towards hour number 3, but before I get there, I got to kick off the next dipper. So you know the deal, y'all. You know the deal. You've been around long enough. You know how this works. Every once in a while, I'm looking around early in the morning as I resource the show. I'm finding news stories here and news stories there, and I'm pulling together all my resources, and I find, oh, look at the wokeness. How about all that woke? How did we get so much woke? And next thing I realize, I've got a pile of wokeness, a veritable cornucopia, a vast plethora, a buffet, if you will, a charcuterie board filled with wokeness. That means it's time for another round of adventures in woke world.
Adventures in woke world.
Okay, JP, you cannot put images up on the screen for this one. Just saying.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it's that bad. You've seen it. It's on social media right now. Protesters in Portland. Okay, y'all, listen.
Yeah.
What?
I wish I hadn't seen it.
Yeah, I know exactly. You're looking at it going, ain't nothing about this is good in a variety of ways. So if you had not heard, Dateline today, foxnews.com, I hold the story here in my calloused former paratrooper hands. There's a unique version of anti-ICE protesting that kicked off yesterday in Portland, Oregon, where people are bearing it all, if you will. Bearing it all. Outlining their rage and resistance to ICE by going buck naked. I'm talking like buck naked, riding bikes, riding bikes buck naked. And then like with slogans on their bodies like no kings and no human being is illegal, whatever that means. And then they rode down to the ICE facility. Like we're talking about a couple hundred buck naked people on bikes.
You know, I hate to say it, Portland may just be lost at this point.
it's friggin' Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah.
I mean, and by the way, I say all this to say, you got a bunch of buck naked people that showed up, and the Portland police didn't arrest one of them. I mean, talk about public exhibitionism.
Yeah, well, I mean, if meth is decriminalized and people can just have sex on the sidewalk and nothing be done, I'm sure public nudity is actually kind of promoted by the city. Yeah, go ahead. I mean, that's like the least of the stuff we allow.
It's the lesser of the evils.
Yeah, I mean, that's nothing compared to what you can do in Portland.
I mean, I look at this and think this is like a bunch of deviants who had an excuse to go out there and go butt naked in public and pretend that they were This is effective. How do you feel about this? Well, I think we're doing something very meaningful. No, you're not.
No.
You're buck naked, and that's all that matters to you.
It's just gross people looking for any excuse to do gross stuff.
I got news. I saw the video. Some of them are actually really gross.
Yeah, if I could have gouged my eyeballs out and replaced them with different ones, I probably would have.
At least take them out and wash them before you put them back to use.
Yeah.
Robbie Starbuck said of this, and the story that I've got, he says, if you want to strut around naked in public where kids can see you, then I see you as a mentally ill pedophile who belongs in jail. No sane state allows this stuff. He says, you can do all the naked stuff you want in your house without kids, but not in public. No sane person disagrees with me. And I listen, I am curious. Is there anybody out there who lived in Portland that would say, hey, Phil, in Portland, we applaud this kind of thing? I mean, do we have a statement from the mayor of Portland? Do we have a statement from the governor of Oregon? Is there anybody out there who's like, we're so glad we live in a state where it's okay to, go buck naked on a bicycle down to the ICE facility and protest for an hour or two? They even laid down on the road buck naked and blocked the road.
I mean, it's not just this weird stuff, but the violence from Antifa in Portland, what happened to Nick Sortor. Yeah. And the police could also be infiltrated because apparently some reports of the police, directly ordering them not to go and help these conservatives who are getting attacked by Antifa. And there's actually some instances where Antifa is monitoring traffic, not police. So it's like that's where it starts to get worried. It's like, is anybody in Portland? Do they have any common sense anywhere?
I don't know. Here's a one funny piece of this though. Turning Point USA has got the president, Andrew Colvett. He said, I got a feeling a bunch of illegals just saw this, threw up their hands and self-deported rather than be subjected to whatever this is.
That's true. This could have had an opposite effect. Who knows?
We are in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead, amigos. We're out of here. And they also point out though that this is a break from the norm because like in September, we had rioters pulling a guillotine up in front, threatening federal law officers. 4 federal law officers were injured during the assault at the same place. They've had riots where they bring fireworks, smoke grenades, and throw rocks at federal law enforcement, breaking glass, forcibly trying to get their way through the gate. So I don't know. I mean, I look at it and say, well, they're buck naked, but at least they're not assaulting police officers this time. So this time, it could get worse. We might have buck naked assaulters. There's a shock troop for you. Mm-hmm. All right. Next one I got here in my callous former paratrooper hands comes from the Daily Mail. I don't usually go to the Daily Mail, but this story caught my attention, especially when I'm doing a woke world segment. James Bond films slapped with fresh wave of woke trigger warnings by streamer service, except that one infamous Sean Connery scene made it through. Okay. So if you haven't seen it, you got basically Amazon secured the rights to all the Bond films, right? And then Amazon felt it necessary to go ahead and start putting all of the trigger warnings and advising people. Just be aware there's guns in these movies. Well, it's James Bond. And just be aware there's a little bit of misogyny. Well, it's also James Bond. And, and there's, I don't know, alcohol use, smoking, and foul language. The smoking piece always gives me a kick. When did that become a trigger warning? I saw that the other day on TV myself. Smoking.
Smoking actually looks really cool in movies, so I feel like it should be an opposite of a trigger warning. I'm not endorsing smoking. I'm saying it looks pretty cool.
That you see what just happened. Now I just got my whole mantra there was just curbed because it apparently works on you. We need a trigger warning because you think smoking is cool now. Anyway, 1962, Dr. No, the first ever Bond film, it carries warnings now for violence, alcohol use, smoking, and foul language. And then you got a number of them that have what they call nude and sexual content. Okay. And then you got the fact that Amazon began selling James Bond posters, but took the gun out of them. So you've got like James Bond pointing his finger now instead of pointing a gun.
I mean, the amount of homicides that have happened from guns on posters.
I've often thought that James Bond might have actually inspired mass murder. We don't know. It could be. But there's one scene. I don't know if you've seen all the James Bonds, the classics.
Not all of them.
All right. Sean Connery was still arguably the best James Bond. I realize I'm going to have some text messages now, but Sean Connery is still the high bar for. There's been some good. Daniel Craig is good, but Sean Connery, man, listen, I'm just saying, you're just James Bond 007. Anyway, there's one scene in 1967's You Only Live Twice, where he actually changes his look and makes his eyes look slanted to mimic a Japanese man and gets away with it. And there's no trigger warning. And I ask you, why? Why, if smoking is a trigger warning, if you can't have a Marlboro, then why can you imitate an Oriental man and get away with it?
That's a fair contention. I feel like that will be right up woke's alley.
Woke does not know what it's doing. That's what I'm serious saying. Woke is not congruent. Woke has not figured itself out. Woke does not have the pattern and policy and the SOPs in place. Just saying.
Well, do they know the audience that's going to go watch a James Bond movie? Do you think they're going to care about smoking or guns being a movie? Like, that's kind of the whole point why they go to the movie.
Why we go.
Yeah.
Because James Bond always catches the bad guy, gets the girl, and has a cigarette.
Yep, that's the gist of it.
And literally, I would watch the movie just to see him get his gear from Q, all the cool stuff.
Yeah.
Bond, do bring it back in good order, please. Would you? Not like last time. I gave you the Lotus. You blew it up, Bond.
Got to make another one.
All right. How much time I got?
30 seconds.
Oh, well, I won't do this one then. I'm going to come back from this break and I'm going to tell you about the, well, let me just go ahead and give you a test of this. The anti-racist, queer-affirming psychoanalytic framework being taught by an anti-Charlie Kirk University of Alabama professor. Do what? Oh, yeah. I got the story. Oh, yeah, I'm bringing the receipts. You guys stay tuned. We're going to take a break right now. We'll come right back. But I'm indeed telling you that University of Alabama, they got the guy, man. He's got all the street cred for an entire segment of woke world by himself. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
He says after a match, it takes him around 2 weeks before he starts to walk normally again.
Oh, my.
Hulk Hogan, before he gets out of bed, it takes, I've heard, up to 30 minutes for him to get out of bed. People don't think about this because Hulk Hogan wasn't necessarily known for having these really spectacular moves like you were talking about, a double gainer off the top rope or anything. But what he was is 303 pounds, and he'd get a running start, jump as high as he could, and then fall directly on his spine, doing what he called a leg drop. But that's how he won all of his matches. He'd hit a leg drop.
Yeah.
When Abe got 303 pounds, just pounding, driving right in.
He did that in the Rocky movie.
Yes, he did it in every match he ever had. And at the time, that hurts a little bit. You're not thinking about all the pressure that puts on your spine and the stuff in between your different vertebrae. I mean, he's probably had 24 back surgeries. And it's from that one move that all of us would say, well, that's not that spectacular looking. I would challenge you, go watch Dale Earnhardt's last race. His wreck was not the most spectacular looking wreck you've ever seen, but the back injury is not one to fool with.
So, but you bring up a point. So Dale Earnhardt's wreck resulted in some additional safety measures being added.
Yes.
There are now head straps. There are things in place that NASCAR will not let you race without. So have there been times when somewhere in the industry someone said, look, no more of that?
A ton. So you used to see, like you said early, hey, if I used to see a guy hit another guy over the head with a steel chair. That doesn't happen anymore. There's no, we're very conscious about CTE. We didn't know what we didn't know back then.
Yeah.
So there was once a point of pride where guys wouldn't even want to put their hands up to protect themselves. They thought it made you look weak or less than. You're less of a man. You just grin and bear it. I mean, I remember playing football as a kid. They'd say, oh, you got to rub some dirt on it, walk it off. I mean, I remember smelling salts on foot. Those guys were concussed, and we're hoping we can just send them right back. We didn't know any better, but now we know better. So now there are things like concussion protocol. There's been guys who've had their ring career cut short because they had, something different with their heart that years ago they would have never even tested for. So wrestling has gotten a lot better about protecting the performers within it.
And that's the only way to preserve the industry, really.
Absolutely.
All right. So I tell you what, as we wind down our time, I got a couple more for you.
Sure.
If you were to be in the ring yourself.
Oh gosh.
If you were in the ring yourself.
Yes.
What would be your character? What would be your shtick?
Well, I think it'd be Conrad the mortgage guy.
Conrad the mortgage guy.
And my finisher would be the foreclosure. That's how I would send them home.
You've thought of this before.
Well, people have asked me, a lot. And I've never even, I remember as a kid watching games or watching sporting events, or even when my friends were playing Tecmo Bowl, I wanted to do commentary. And I would find a way to make it funny. I didn't want to do boring commentary. I wanted to be silly, over the top, and be funny. So those sort of things have always, I remember recording it with my little microphone. We all had like a little recorder as a kid, and you'd have a little cassette tape and you'd record silly things into it. So, I remember doing all of that as a kid, and never did I ever imagine I might actually get paid to talk into a microphone. That seemed crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
It is.
But here we are.
Here we are.
All right. So last question for you, brother. I've enjoyed this thoroughly.
Me too. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for making time. Because I've heard your schedule now, so I know that making time was something you had to make.
Well, I had to call an audible. I was supposed to be here at 9 this morning, but we were supposed to record Eric Bischoff's podcast.
Oh, I wasn't going to tell the audience that, but there it is. He did kind of shaft me and make sure that.
I'm glad to do it too. When I saw my buddy Eric on Fox and Friends Thursday, I thought, well, I guess that means we're not recording in an hour, but their whole schedule changed, and when that did, mine did too. I'm sorry about that.
No, that's not even a thing, man. We're here all day. But let me ask you. So podcasts do more than just talk to the moment. They also preserve for future time.
Yes.
All right. So we're 30, 40, 50 years from now and somebody resurrects this footage.
Okay.
What and you're raising two girls.
That's right.
And eventually you're going to be a pawpaw.
I hope so.
What do you want the takeaway for your future generations of your family to take from this particular discussion? What do you want their takeaway of you to be?
Wow, no pressure, huh? Man, that's a deep question. I do think, the positive mental attitude is a great way to live life. And I would encourage anybody who is in a dark place in their life or they're not sure what to do. I would encourage you to change, sort of parent yourself with your own thinking. What I mean is Zig Ziglar has a fabulous clip that's widely available on YouTube that someone ripped off and uploaded, and I guess they didn't monetize it, so they never took it down. But I remember hearing it as a kid when I was really trying to cut my teeth in sales, and it's the Prime the Pump story. Have you heard that before?
I think I have, but go ahead.
The idea being, if you were in rural Mississippi as a door-to-door salesman like he was once upon a time, you might find yourself thirsty, and you might need something to drink, and you might find a well, but as anybody who's ever worked on a well knows, you really got to prime the pump before that water will start coming.
Sure.
But that is a metaphor for life because you never know when that water is going to start coming. So you just got to really give it your all and keep pumping and keep pumping and keep pumping. But if you give up, the water just goes all the way back down to the bottom and you'll never get the water. And the advice is keep pumping and eventually the water will be there. But you've got to have that self-belief yourself because if you can't see it, it won't happen. And when you give up, you lose. Just like your pastor said this past Sunday.
We don't
if you
quit, we win.
That's right. Well, I would challenge you to adjust your thinking about everything in life that way. It can't be like, hey, make me the manager and I'll start showing up on time. That's not the way life works. You've got to put in the work and then you'll get the reward. And you've got to really believe that. But how many kids would have gotten a full ride in school if they'd have studied for just one more hour?
No doubt.
How many people would have set a sales record and been able to afford that new boat that their wife wanted or whatever if they'd have made just one more sale? I mean, that's the idea and the mentality. And I've tried to with everything I do. I do have goals, but I believe in daily goals. I think an annual income goal is a demotivator. I think people get overwhelmed with it. They get in their head and they get negative. And a lot of things happen. Let me give a mortgage example. We may have a deal fall apart because, someone has a lien on their house we didn't know about. But a company like you may show me a title that says, oh, here's something I didn't know about. Well, my deal may be dead. And I've worked on this deal for 3 weeks now, but now it's dead because there's a title issue. Or it may die because I send the file into underwriting and a tax return is not exactly the way an underwriter wants to see it. My processor and I saw it differently than the way the underwriter does, and my deal is dead. Well, both of those deals died, and it wasn't necessarily because of me. Like, I didn't make the tax return bad. I didn't put the lien there. I did everything I was supposed to do, and it didn't work out. Now, I can choose to have two reactions to that. I can fuss and kick and scream and say life's not fair and this sucks and play, oh, pity party, woe is me victim.
Sure.
Or I can say, you know what? I should have just called another one. So I no longer focus on how many loans I close. I focus on how many conversations I start. Because sales is a contact sport. The more contacts you make, the more success you'll have.
No
but
doubt. Yeah.
Nobody's ever.
Yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 3 on a Taco Tuesday. So Taco Tuesday, y'all, because it's often about the food. I got to get a few text messages. You had something over there too. What'd you have? We're in Adventures in Woke World, by the way, and we just had a whole segment on naked biker protesters, which is like buck naked bike riders in Portland, Oregon. Anyway.
Well, yeah, we were also talking about James Bond.
Oh, yeah.
And you in passing said you thought Sean Connery was the best one.
Well, yeah.
And John from Huntsville on the YouTube says that he thinks Pierce Brosnan is the best James Bond.
Well, okay, I'm going to debate that. And I realize you score the show every day, but I was going to have to go in and say Sean Connery. Pierce Brosnan did 2 movies. Sean Connery was in a genre by himself.
Yeah, I think Sean Connery's got that one.
I think the campiest one was Roger Moore. It almost got to be like comedy with Roger Moore. I think the most physical one, the one who made it like, okay, this guy's like a superhero almost, was Daniel Craig. Did you ever see I forgot which one it was, one of the more recent movies, Daniel Craig, and they had what do they call those guys that run on rooftops and all that kind of stuff? Not freebasing, it's or maybe no, that's jumping. But they were basically doing this massive chase scene across rooftops and sky cranes and all kinds. It was madness. But
I looked up. I'm not seeing the name of, but I'm seeing pictures of him running on the rooftop here. I have to agree though. I think if you had one James Bond that physically embodied what James Bond would look like, I think it's Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
There is some talk right now that they're recasting, and that the a guy who'd been playing in the most recent Terminal List series, it may be the next James Bond.
Huh.
Very, very good. All right, listen, I can take some text messages. Jeff from Indiana says, one thing about James Bond, my mouse would work. Hang on a second. Oh, Barry Mathis says it was Casino Royale. The opening scenes for Casino Royale. I mean, epic to the point that it almost made you nervous. And then JT Lacey Springs says Sean Connery was James Bond. All the others were imitators.
Yeah, they're not even playing James Bond. They're just playing Sean Connery.
Welcome to the Rock. It's parkour. That's right.
Oh, is that okay? Parkour.
Parkour.
Yeah,
Those guys. Listen, that's some craziness.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But the guy he was chasing was like Mr. Parkour guy. It was madness. If you haven't watched it before, you have to watch it. Just watch it.
I haven't seen that movie.
Just the opening scenes is all you got to watch. You're going to want to go run atop a rooftop. Jeff from Indiana says, one thing about James Bond is it's not healthy to be his girlfriend, as a lot of them die. That's true. He said, kind of like wearing a red shirt on Star Trek. Forgotten about that. I'm the unnamed guy in the red shirt. I'm not going to make it past scene 3. SF guy from Huntsville, Alabama says Sean Connery is the only Bond. See, I'm telling you, man.
I concur.
Mike from Coxie says absolutely Sean Connery was the best 007, period. Prove me wrong. I can't prove you wrong. I agree with you. Tom from Decatur says, but of course he was. That's James Bond. But of course. Tammy from Huntsville says a fire truck hose would cure all that nakedry in Portland. Line up for your free enemas. Courtesy of the Portland Fire Department. I'm sorry. That was awful. Oh, did that just happen? Yes, it did. Dave from Capshaw says, Portland naked. Where do they keep their keys? I don't know. I don't care. I don't want to know. Under their hat? I don't know. And then Dana from Athens says, with regards to the presidential medal, that Obama did give one to Ellen. All right. My gosh. All right. I'm in Ventures in Woke World. I'm still there. Hey, Alabama fan. Hey.
Guy who also went to Alabama.
Hey, Alabama fan. That's right. Who went to Alabama. 1819 News has a story that came out about 10 days ago. In April 2024, Raheem Thawer, a quote, this is his quote, a racialized anti-Zionist queer Muslim from Canada. Who puts that on their resume, by the way?
He just about got all of them.
Listen, I'm trying to get it all out there, man. Was accepted into the University of Alabama's Doctor of Social Work program. He now teaches at the University of Alabama. He has also, by the way, raised a lot of ire because he was one of those who was quick to post inappropriate remarks following the death of Charlie Kirk. Students calling for his ouster because of it. But according to his website, University of Alabama, Thawer's, quote, doctoral research explores how anti-racist, queer-affirming psychoanalytic frameworks can support social workers, therapists, and training and organizational leaders. What does that even mean, JP? That's exactly what it means. Charlie Brown's teacher. He's currently teaching courses. You ready for this? Here's your syllabus. You can take courses on understanding intersectionality and identity, dismantling barriers to inclusion within organizations, countering biases and microaggressions, engaging diversity and inclusion in organizations, and, oh, by the way, equity and diversion inclusion certificate programs. They allow certificate programs in this?
I guess so.
What's up with Alabama, man?
I don't know. I mean, then again, I only went there for 1 year, but my experience there, you think it's SEC schools, it's going to be different. However, it's still higher education. And I know when I did my orientation before my freshman year, like the summer after I graduated high school, in our orientation group, we had to all say our pronouns. So
wow,
that it's still higher education. I would say, I want to say more than half of my teachers that I had were more on the liberal side, but I don't know if that may be a little bit of an exaggeration. But I mean, I had atheist teachers who were openly atheist. I had gay teachers, and although it's still Alabama and an SEC school, it's still higher education. And unfortunately, the people who get into teaching higher education they believe, certain ideologies. So it can happen anywhere.
Well, just so you know, it's unclear right now if the University of Alabama has warned any supporters of Israel that Thawer might be a poor match as an instructor, since he's been lauding the Palestinian resistance and claiming that they are the victims in all of this. But then he also had a recent podcast, which has now been deleted, by the way, in which it says that Raheem Thawer, using his he/him pronouns, is a racialized queer social worker. God. What does that even mean? Who works as an instructor, psychotherapist, clinical supervisor, consultant, public speaker, podcast host, and writer, who teaches about systemic oppression, mental health, and the intersections thereof, and has a particular interest in examining innovations in queer relationship and exploring how anti-racist, queer-affirming, psychoanalytic, whatever. I can't do it anymore. All I'm saying is that's at the University of Alabama.
Well, weren't the authors of critical race theory at Alabama Law School?
They are. The actual progenitors, the originators of the critical race theory are at Alabama. People don't even realize it's right here. Okay. This is an equal opportunity show.
Exactly. I was just about to say it.
This is I call the balls and the strikes. I've got a story about Auburn.
Yep.
I hold it in my callous former paratrooper hands, War Eagle. Students at Auburn University that are taking Crime and Justice in America, which is a now known as an Auburn promoting a queer criminology class. It's happening. This story came out Friday. The story came out last Thursday. Students at Auburn University are learning queer criminology. What is queer criminology? Like gay crime? What are we talking about here? Which includes lessons on radical gender ideology that contradicts Alabama's definition of sex and critical race theory, the notion that Black Lives Matter movement has been a positive influence on the nation, and other 100 other progressive theories on race and racism. Wow. The required reading, as well as quizzes and writing assignments, is taken from a book called Criminal Injustice by a guy named Aaron Fichtelberg, which is he's an activist himself. And then you look at it and you think, okay, surely there's not any more than that. But no, there's more than that. The textbook talks about critical race theory, looking at how society, and in particular the criminal justice system, oppresses Black Americans. American criminal justice has been one of the most effective tools at preventing Black Americans from succeeding. And in particularly keeps Black Americans below the federal poverty threshold. It's all about race, basically. It's race, but somewhere in there's an entire section devoted to what they call queer criminology.
Of course.
Yes.
Everything is.
Yes, it's either race or
sexuality of some sort.
Which includes a lesson based on radical gender ideology that seeks to undermine the innate and biological sex differences, which, oh, by the way, has questions on a quiz. That's at Auburn. So not to be outdone, we had to have our own. Now we have the Iron Bowl of wokeness. Thank you very much.
It's unfortunate because, these kids are in conservative Christian households for the most part, but yet these teachers come in, oftentimes not from the South, and come and teach them. And it's not, I don't think it's a fair opportunity for, kids who grew up believing something to, have teachers that share the same beliefs. But.
No, I would agree. I do have one here that does involve skin again, if you'll excuse me. Mm-hmm. This one actually is people that are trying to protest things that you and I believe in, or actually protesting on behalf of things that you and I believe in. So in Maine, there were 3 activists. Hang on a minute. Maybe I'm wrong. No, I'm sorry. I thought they were protesting transgenderism being allowed. No, they're protesting transgenderism not being allowed. So the 3 activists went to a school board meeting and stripped.
Okay.
It's their time to speak. Yes, we'd like to speak. We're on the agenda. Yes, please come present your name. Wait, keep your clothes on, please. No, they couldn't do it.
I said permission to speak and not permission to strip.
Listen, you can't make this stuff up. I'm going to take a break right now. I'll take that break. I'll come right back, and I'll kind of wrap up my Adventures in Woke World segment with a quick section about Wikipedia. Don't let your kids use Wikipedia for their term papers. Just saying. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. All the wokeness, man. My gosh.
Heaviest thing in your office to pick up is that little square rectangle called a phone. I mean, you pick that piece of plastic up and put it to your ear and things will happen. But success is not looking for you. You got to be looking for it. So I would encourage everybody who's in a place where they're lost in life, and I'm not just giving a sales metaphor, I mean about anything. If you'd worked on your marriage a little more, if you'd worked on your relationship with God a little more, if you'd have read one more book, if you'd have spent one more moment with your son or daughter or whatever it may be, what's wrong with trying to give a little more? And that's what Zig Ziglar taught me when I was a kid. And that's the reason here I am trying to fit in a trip to Gadsden on a random weekday. I want a little more.
Brother, I don't know if I can take much more than that. That is good stuff right there. And I appreciate your time. You do good stuff, and I thank you for making time for Rightside.
Thanks for having us, man. I really appreciate the opportunity to come in, and it just tickles me to no end that we both know Cassio. How's that even possible?
Tell him I still got pictures.
I think he might too.
Hey, hope you guys enjoyed that one. Listen, check out our YouTube channel. Find us at Rightside Media. We're also on all of our social media platforms, and you can also find us at rightsidemedia.org. All of our content, just click subscribe, follow, or like, and we'll see you next time on Just Right. Hey, folks, you're going to enjoy this one. I just had a conversation with Brian Dawson from 1819 News, president and CEO of an up-and-coming company that is making a huge splash in the state of Alabama. But listen, you're going to be amazed by his personal story. Brian Dawson, you talk about rags to riches. You talk about somebody who's been redeemed. You're talking about a guy who is looking at life in prison, who now has an amazing family, an amazing life, an amazing testimony of how the Lord has redeemed him, and who is, oh, by the way, making a huge difference in our state. Stay tuned. Just Right podcast coming up next. Yeah, let's do a show.
1, 2, 3, hey!
Brian Dawson, How you doing?
Doing good.
Good. I got notes, dude.
All right.
I'm gonna start with a sort of introduction. All right.
Hit me.
You was born and raised outside the state of Alabama. Spent a lot of your time in Colorado Springs. Am I right?
Yep. And Derby, Kansas. Those are the two places.
Does that make you a carpetbagger if you came from out west?
No, west is not north.
Okay.
So yeah, carpetbaggers only come from the north.
All right. So you're allowed.
Yeah.
You were a white suburban kid.
Correct.
But your parents divorced when you're young. I know that. I
Mhm.
can relate to that. But then there's this period of your life. We'll talk about it in detail here in a minute. You've been very candid in some of the other interviews and discussions I've even had with you: crime, drugs, drinking.
Sure.
And then there became time when you were even involved with drug cartels and other things, and spent time in prison.
Yep.
At one point, I know you were facing like just short of 400 years potentially in prison. But then you found Jesus. You found a beautiful woman. You found purpose. You found parenthood like 7 times.
Correct.
It's
the number of completion, Phil.
Oh, well, there you
They
go.
say perfection and completion.
Speaking of which, we're going to get to the initials of all your kids' names too, which is very cool. And then now it's radio, media, 1819 News, president and CEO. So let's start. All right, let's just talk about it.
Yeah.
Early childhood, dude. How did you get to where you went?
Yeah. So interesting thing. I always like to. The more I learn about people and get to know people and everything, I realize who they are, where they're from, who their parents are matters a lot. And I also think, well, I'll just kind of go into that. So my dad is from West Monroe, Louisiana. He is a swamp redneck. He grew up with Phil Robertson.
Duck Dynasty. Phil
Duck
Robertson.
Dynasty, okay.
Yeah.
Phil was about 7 years my dad's senior, and so Phil was the camp counselor at Camp Chioka in Louisiana. And so, my dad was like 10 and Phil was like 17 at the summer camp or whatever. But my grandma, Memu, as we call her, Betty Dawson, taught Sunday school with Miss Kay for 30 years at Whites Ferry Road Church of Christ in West Monroe, Louisiana. So I say all that because it's neat on one hand that my family is close with their family or whatever, but also to give you, like, everybody knows the Robertsons and the swamp redneck thing, right? Like, they're swamp rednecks with money. But prior to them having money, there was a saying in West Monroe that the only people that were more poor than the Dawsons was the Robertsons. Okay, and the Dawsons was po, like they were super poor. Okay, I would joke and say
They changed that over time.
yeah, so they did. My dad not so much. That's okay though. Went the middle class route, but my dad, swamp redneck from Louisiana. Grew up, I always say, back when poor people were skinny, had to hunt for food, garden, so that's that side of my family. And then on the other side, there's my mom. My mom, and we'll kind of get into a little bit more of her background later in the story as it's pertinent, but she was the daughter of a state senator in Colorado Springs specifically. And so my grandfather was a state senator. He ran for governor. He ended up running for Congress against Joel Heffley in Colorado. That was the only politics.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative and just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. By the way, the lovely Charlene has sent me a text. She thought that the free enemas for the Portland naked bike riders from the fire department was like hilarious. I got the big laughing emojis out of it.
That was good.
That was good.
Props.
All right, last story I got for you in Adventures in Woke World. So I'll never forget one time I was debating a bill on the floor of the Alabama Senate. I'm standing in the well. I'm at the podium debating with a Democrat. I won't say who, but this Democrat came at me and said, well, so-and-so and so-and-so is what I think about it. And I said, but where did you get your facts? He said, well, I was studying Wikipedia on this thing. And I wanted so badly just to go ahead and belittle him, but I didn't. But ain't nobody going to win no arguments whatsoever, nowhere, by letting Wikipedia be your chief source. Just saying.
In high school, we weren't even allowed to source Wikipedia on our papers.
Wikipedia should be nothing more than an idea generator. That's all it is. Because otherwise, if you're using it as fact, you're running a great risk.
Yeah.
You're running a great risk of being a buffoon. Here's a couple of examples why. I got an article here from the Daily Signal. Came out 2 days ago. Daily Signal. A guy named Larry Sanger is one of the guys who created Wikipedia. And Larry Sanger says he is now horrified at how biased it's become. Basically, he's watching his baby just be destroyed. He says Sanger told Daily Signal in a story, which is where I got this story from, Daily Signal. Wikipedia shapes public opinion more than any other single information source of its kind, more than any newspaper or broadcast or podcast. And here's the facts. Apparently, Wikipedia, I did not know this, is the world's 9th most visited website.
Wow.
It exists in 340 languages. It attracts more than 1.5 billion unique visits per month. 1.5 billion unique visits to its site per month.
That's nuts.
Now, he also says, but it can no longer be taken seriously as a neutral source. Here's an example. How about God? So when you use the word Yahweh, the Hebrew name for God, which is, I'm not sure, but I think Sanger may be Jewish. So he basically says he adheres to the idea of a God. He loves the Lord. He says, in his words, the word is translated as the Lord in your Bible. It is the God of the Christians and the Jews. That's Yahweh. But in the article titled Yahweh in Wikipedia, it says that Yahweh was the chief God with a little g of a polytheistic pantheon of deities and does not even mention the attitudes and beliefs of modern Christians and Jews.
It's just comical.
It's just
not even hiding.
Not even trying to pretend. He goes on to cite other things too. Like, for instance, they have an entire section here that I wasn't even familiar with, where you can actually go and check what is called reliable sources and perennial sources. Basically like, hey, Wikipedia, if I want to find sources that tell me about these kind of things, who would I go to? And some of them are, on a list. This list, like you can go on there and you can get people wiped out. And they do all the time. Daily Signal itself has been wiped off as a list of credible sourcing. However, the Southern Poverty Law Center is still firmly entrenched.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. So all I'm saying is creeping bias, Wikipedia, don't trust it. It's only there for you to go, oh, that's an idea. Let me go look up something real that actually talks about this.
I remember just several instances like in high school where, the teacher would be talking to somebody in the class about their paper and they would say something, say, well, where'd you find that? Wikipedia. It's like, okay.
Oh,
let's go to a real source.
Busted.
Let's go to a real source,
Yeah.
So.
Wikipedia is not the encyclopedia.
No.
And by the way, you can actually have people log in and just change stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the part that makes it so unreliable, is that people can just go in and change it. And I don't know what process it is for that to be approved, but yeah, it's open to anybody to go in and change information. Like whenever big rivalry football games, I've seen several instances where like the coach of the team that lost, somebody would go in and change the Wikipedia to be like son of, other coach, like Kirby Smart, son of Kalen DeBoer, or something like that. Like, so it's just another example. Like anybody can just go in and mess with it. It's not reliable.
Ugh. Okay. Dave from Capshaw checking in says there was a female James Bond character, wasn't there? No, there's no such thing as a female James Bond. I refuse to dialogue about this any further. Jeff from Indiana says, hey, Phil, this guy being a queer Muslim, I wonder if he has the urge to jump off a tall building. Oh, boy. Okay. Danny from Decatur says Sean Connery was the best. The best Daniel Craig video clip was when he walked into Buckingham Palace to escort the Queen to the helicopter to the opening of the Olympics. He's a fictional spy walking with the real Queen. I did not recall that. I don't recall that at all, but that's interesting. Tim from Madison says, just curious, if it's the ninth most visited site in the world, why is it always asking for donations? That's a great question.
Anytime I go to Wikipedia, which is rare, it's like, please give us money. Please give us money, please.
Don't you understand how important we are?
We could shut down tomorrow if you don't give us money.
Shag Nasty, the atheist, checking in. Shag Nasty says, Wikipedia is another Alabama creation. What? He says, where do y'all think civil rights started in America? Rosa Parks wasn't. What are we talking about here? He says, every time y'all trash Wikipedia, I donate another $20. Good for you, man. Good for you. About this, Wikipedia sucks. Wikipedia sucks. Wikipedia sucks. Keep going. Then he says, most important thing to come out of Huntsville since the Saturn V. So he's saying Wikipedia. Is he? Listen, I don't know. It's Shag. You never can tell. Got several more text messages. Got more stuff. Got a last dipper. We'll see how much we can get done. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Around where all that happened before I was born, except for the run for Congress. And he has a country club background, right? And so you mix this swamp redneck with this country club, and this is where you get this amazing pedigree that sits before you.
Had this sort of Romeo and Juliet feel to it.
Yeah, I guess so. But that I really do think that plays a lot into, you know, who I am and how I go about things, but for better or for worse. But yeah, so they couldn't have been more different, and they got divorced when I was 2, right? Like who didn't see the writing on the wall with that one? So they got divorced when I was 2. Courts put me with my mom. That's kind of the knee-jerk reaction of the court system. At least it was back then. I don't think it's changed that much now. The knee-jerk reaction is give kids to mom. And had they have done any type of due diligence whatsoever and looked into the situation, they would have seen that that was not the best place for me. And so when I was 2 years old, boom, I'm now living with my mom, seeing my dad every other weekend. And
where were y'all living then?
This was Colorado Springs. Okay. Yep. And so, you know, my mom, you know, God bless her, I love her. She did the best she could with what she had, right? And so I've worked through a lot of unforgiveness with my mom and with my dad, and not even, but just forgiving them and me thinking, oh, I've forgiven them, but it's like, no, really. And then once you've forgiven them, you can actually see the appreciation that they did everything they possibly could. Now that I have kids, I see. But my mom had a very rough childhood, though she was from country club, you know, lineage. She was sexually abused as a child. She, you know, had all kinds of abuse and just horrible. And, you know, so she had a lot of trauma in her life that she never dealt with. And so I'm living with her, and the solution to every problem that she has is another man. And so I ended up with like 5 or 6 stepdads. I lost count. Okay. Now I will say, I know there's no way you haven't seen the movie or read the book, Hillbilly Elegy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So that was my life to a T with my mom. That was my life to a T. We watched that movie, and my mother and I were like, this is like maybe 6 months ago, we watched the movie.
Together?
No. But I mean, I watched it. I was a wreck. My wife's looking at me. My oldest son, you know, who's watched it with us, is like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "Yeah," you know. It was a wreck, and I told my mom about it. My mom watched it. She's like, "Oh my gosh," you know, it was like PTSD watching, because it was so on point with that 2 to 10 years with my mom. And I always make the joke, me and JD Vance are the same person, you know, except JD Vance, he got into the Marines and went to Yale, and I got into drugs and went to jail. But other than that, same person. But yeah, and so when I was that went on, you know, watching my mom get drunk, taking pharmaceutical drugs, I watched her get beat by some of the men that she was with. Just not good formative years from 2 to 10, right? And so by the time I'm 10, I get into a big fight with my mom, and she, despite many court battles for my dad to get custody of me that he continued to lose, my mom just let go and said, "You can go live with your dad." And so when I was 10, I went and moved with my dad, and he was living in Wichita, Kansas. He worked at Cessna for the bulk of his career in Wichita, Kansas. So
I got to tell you, and sometime I'll tell you my whole story, but I didn't wind up in jail, but I was headed there.
Yeah.
Parents divorced when I was young, lived with my mom, did not respond well to multiple marriages. Mom finally gave me the ultimatum as we had a big blow up. She sent me to live with Dad, who, by the way, was living in London, England, as an Army officer. And so I like to say God had to give me a 3-year timeout away from everything that I was used to for me to find him.
Yeah.
Of course, you had a 384-year timeout coming.
Potentially, yeah.
So let me ask you, you live with your dad. I researched before I sit down with you, and I'm watching other interviews you've done and stuff. And you said in one case that your dad's level of discipline and household, management was more what you needed, but you still wound up going down some roads.
Sure.
So you were, and I got to say, in going through all the news stories and things, your mugshot came up at some point.
A bunch, yeah.
And you were just a normal looking high school dude. You didn't have like body piercings and face tats, and you weren't doing gang signs in the mugshot. You just looked like a high school football player, which you were. Am I right?
Yeah.
But you also had this sideline gig of doing things that got you in big trouble.
Yeah. No, I'm an all in guy. Whatever I'm into, I'm all into it, and that's just the way I'm wired. And it was.
Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. man, just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show, y'all. I mean, like goes all the way from Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga. And I'm talking about Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that loveless little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the line from there to what we call, once again, Fort Benning. Benning, big old patches of North Georgia, Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. And that's just the radio. That's just the radio. And then there's all y'all out there in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web, logging in on the live stream every single day, audio and video, live streaming on places like X and YouTube and Rumble and Facebook and our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then there's all you podcasters, tons of you podcast the show after the fact. If you're hearing me say it, then hear me say this along with it. We appreciate you more than you can possibly know. You're the reason why we do this. So thank you very much. This whole discussion of Wikipedia just lit up. I mean, like, holy cow. And I got to give Shag Nasty the Atheist some props. Shag, I had no idea Wikipedia, one of their founders, was from Huntsville. That's crazy. That's cool. Shaggy, give him some applause. Thank you very much for enlightening us and bringing something to our attention. And you were looking at it a minute ago, right?
Yeah. So Jimmy Wales, which is one of the founders, he was born and raised in Huntsville. He went to Auburn University for his undergrad. And then I'm also seeing the University of Alabama on here as one of his education places. So I don't know what he went there for, but it says he got his undergrad at Auburn and graduated from Randolph High School. So, and also there's a tab on here about his political beliefs. Apparently in a 2007 interview, he claimed that his political views were, quote, center right. So I don't know.
Where is he now? Is he still alive?
He is still alive. He's actually 59 years old, and not sure where he's living at right now. But
he's from Huntsville. And he's like, okay, where did he graduate high school?
Randolph High School, yeah.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I was right down the road at Grissom at the same time.
Yeah, I'm looking up where Jimmy Wales currently lives. I guess London. He's currently in London, so he's not even living in America.
London?
Anymore. Yeah.
Okay. I don't understand that at all.
But yeah.
Well,
I vaguely may have heard some growing up that some Wikipedia was connected to Huntsville somehow, but I completely forgot it. But yeah, Jimmy Wales from Huntsville.
Well, some of the text messages are coming in pretty strong on it. Spence from Harvest says one of the founders of Wikipedia is Jimmy Wales, Huntsville native, Randolph High School. There you go. Dave from Capshaw says, according to the AI in the film No Time to Die, Lashana Lynch played Nomi, who is the first female character to take on the 007 mantle, but she is not James Bond himself. I don't understand that, Dave. I don't want to hear about it anymore. That's just awful. That's heresy. Brand new texter in the text line is Mike from South Huntsville. Mike from South Huntsville says, as said on the Gutfeld show last night, the main takeaway from this weekend's naked protest is you should never buy a secondhand bike in Portland. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I guess all the bike resellers went out of business after that video.
Wow. You just want to rub them down with alcohol. That's all I'm saying.
Just burn them.
Yeah. Julie Ruff from Marshall County says, Wiki founder is a Huntsville native. I am so ashamed. Brian S. from Huntsville says, also, Wikipedia was founded in San Diego, not Huntsville. Well, hang on a second. Don't go. No, listen.
Yeah, but the founder was from Huntsville. So.
Right. By golly. John C. from Madison just says, Wikipedia sucks. Okay. John from Huntsville says, if James Bond was a female, it'd be Jamie Bond. There's that. And then brand spanking new in the text line without telling us
before.
Oh, really? Well, tell us who you are and where you're from. It says, when I watch a Bond film, I expect gun violence. I also expect fist violence, knife violence, club violence, choking violence, car violence, boat violence, rocket violence, laser violence, drinking, cussing, and misogyny. Bond is Bond. That pretty much summed it up. All with a martini, shaken, not stirred.
And a cigarette.
Yeah. Although I don't know that Daniel Craig smoked a cigarette. I don't think he did.
Yeah, but he really didn't need to. He embodied Bond so much. It was kind of implied. Maybe off camera, he was, smoking a Marlboro or something.
Daniel Craig is the first Bond that I ever saw that got beat up. Oh boy, looked like he had been in like he roughed people up, but he got roughed up in the process. Mm-hmm. So he was like human.
Yeah, the human
and Bond.
Yeah.
Somehow or another, Sean Connery never got bruised.
It's Sean Connery. I mean, he's kind of like the Chuck Norris genre of like, he's not going to get
Hey,
beat
Chuck
up.
Norris was real.
That's true. Chuck Norris is real. And
That's right.
He is a stud.
Monsters look under their bed to see if Chuck Norris is there.
I mean, the earth, he doesn't do push-ups. He pushes the earth down.
That's exactly right, because he's Chuck Norris. All right, listen, we got plenty of stuff to talk about here, but you're going to text it in. You want to call it in. It's 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. We just had the presentation of the award to Charlie Kirk. And JP was telling me during the break something that I thought was very cool. So the Presidential Medal of Freedom, Donald Trump just gave it posthumously. Awarded Charlie Kirk the Presidential Medal of Freedom. His wife, Erica, was there to receive it in the Rose Garden at the White House. And you were telling me about Trump's schedule, about what the plan was for this. That was
cool. Well, he was in the Middle East, obviously, bringing world peace and all. So he actually on the flight back was saying how he, with his schedule meeting Malay today and all that's going on, he was considering, rescheduling the ceremony to Friday. And then he found out that today was Charlie Kirk's birthday and decided not to reschedule it and to fit it into his schedule. So the president of the United States, who's a very, very busy man, he took it upon himself to honor Charlie and have it on his birthday instead of rescheduling it, which he had every right to do with his schedule.
People diss on Trump all the time, but that's a level of thoughtfulness right there.
Yeah.
That was not, this is important and I'm the president, so they'll come to me when we're ready.
Mm-hmm.
That was, I got to get back because it will mean a lot to his family to do it on his birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And they put that thing together pretty quick.
They did.
But yeah, that was amazing. I really thought that was sort of a capstone piece of the overall, was that he made it back from the Middle East with the sole intent of getting back in time to do this for Charlie Kirk on his birthday.
Mm.
I think that's very cool. By the way, going back to the Wikipedia thing, Stan McDonald just texted me. That would be the Stan McDonald.
The Stan McDonald.
The Stan McDonald,
Mm-hmm.
the one, the only Stan McDonald, who, by the way, if Stan is on your side, you're going to have no greater friend, and likewise, your adversaries would have no greater foe. That's true. His number is 533-0202, just so you know. But anyway, he just texted and said Butler High School actually claims that guy as a graduate.
Does he?
Yeah, and says my government teacher from Butler said he's a Butler grad.
Well, according to the internets and his own Wikipedia,
it says, you can't trust Wikipedia.
It says Randolph School, so yeah. Well, yeah, he probably maybe graduated from Butler, but yeah, according to the interwebs, it says Randolph. So I guess there's a turf battle for this guy.
Rightfully so. Lewis from Trinity says Sean Connery was a bodybuilder before he was James Bond. Okay. Daniel Craig, James Bond represented the generation that was computer literate. There was a scene when he hacked into somebody's house, M's house. She told him if he ever did that again, she's killing him. I remember that scene. Bloody cheek of you. TC from Priceville says, word on the street, Elon Musk is in the process of making an Expedia. Promises to make it an archive of facts. All caps. You know what? It's Elon. I would not put anything by him.
That's true. Elon can really just do it.
And he'll probably have like the nuclear codes on it too. Clay from Madison sends us a meme. Pray tell, Clay, what did you send? Said the left cheered more for the assassination of an innocent man than a ceasefire for what they protested for the last 2 years. That's a great point. And then he says, Trump has just showed the world that Hamas is easier to negotiate with than Democrats. Let that sink in. Wow. 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 Dave from Capshaw says skid marks in Portland just took on a new meaning. Now we got free enemas. Nobody wants to buy a bike, and there's skid marks in Portland. These naked bike riders, the memes write themselves.
The textures have been on it today.
Oh my gosh, you guys are amazing. JT Lacey Springs says John is wrong. A lady Bond would be Jane. His opinion about Connery is wrong too. JT is not taking this laying down.
He's not.
We're about to have a naked protest about James Bond.
No, please don't.
Please don't. No pictures. No. We don't want them. All right, we're taking a break, the last break of the day. As we're going out, I want to hear a laugh track. Can we have a laugh track? I think we need a laugh track for all of you guys that texted in on the question of naked Portland protesters. There it is. All right, you guys, we are taking the break. We will be right back. Y'all stay tuned.
And so, going to the structure that my dad provided, but me still falling, I think that was a great tee up. I've never thought about it in those terms, and it actually makes a lot of sense. So I'm 10. I move in with my dad. He's still not a Christian to this day. So if you're listening, pray for my dad. But he put a roof over my head. He got up every day at 4:30 in the morning and went to work. He showed up to my football games. We ate dinner every night around the table. Okay. He was what he was supposed to be as a father, and he didn't have a father. His dad abandoned them, his siblings. So he never had a dad. And so the gaps that he was filling in were those real basic gaps that he completely lacked, which was the providing, the protecting, those type of things. And so he generationally fixed that, that basic blocking and tackling gap that a father is supposed to provide. But some of the areas where I'd say, and I don't mean this disparagingly, where he fell short, he's not a real good communicator where he can sit down and say, son, let me talk to you about manhood. Or, son, let me talk like that. Those weren't his things. He showed up and he did what he was supposed to do. And I'm very, very grateful that I had the time with him that I did. It definitely shaped and molded me. But when from 2 to 10, which they call formative years, those are formative years, right? And your formative years are not very formative. You carry baggage. And so I'm with my dad in this structure, carrying that baggage. And so I would get straight A's on the report cards, and I thrived in that structure, and I did good in sports. But underneath, I was angry. And my stepmom would always tell me, she's like, you're so angry. Why are you so angry? And she didn't understand. And I was angry at the world. And I was never really comfortable in my own skin. I had a lot of insecurity issues. And the only time I ever felt comfortable in my own skin is when I drank and did drugs. And so I drank and did drugs a lot.
Sort of a self-medicating kind of thing?
I definitely think it was a self-medicating thing. And once I kind of dove into that, I became the life of the party. I created a fake ID. I've always been somewhat, innovative. Learned how to create a fake ID, and then I could go get everybody alcohol. So I was like the coolest guy, in school. I could go get everybody booze and, party. But like everybody else would like party and go home and be fine. I would drink to the point of blacking out and not remember what I did. And that would happen 2 or 3 times a week, right? Like I was like a wild party animal. And then that went on to the point where I started to do drugs. And same thing, whatever I do, I do it all the way. And that happened there.
But you needed to do it. You were selling them too, right?
Yeah. And so how it started is, a little bit of weed, selling a little bit of weed, whatever. And then I would experiment with a little bit of cocaine or methamphetamines or ecstasy or whatever. And in that experimenting phase, I was still living in a suburb of Wichita called Derby, Kansas, with my dad. And
I got siblings, by the way.
So I've got, from my mom, I have a brother who has a different dad.
Okay.
And he's Brad, and he's 2 years, 2 months, 2 days older than me. Anyway, probably not pertinent to the story, but it's interesting. And then I have a stepbrother. When my dad remarried, he remarried a woman, my stepmom, who had a son that was my exact age. So we were in the same schools together growing up.
Okay, wow, yeah.
Yeah. And he was also into partying and doing things, and also found himself in prison at some point in his life. So, I always want to go down rabbit trails, and it's like, I'm not going to rabbit trail, I promise. So that experimenting with some of those more illicit drugs, I snuck out one night to do that, and I came home after sneaking out thinking that because what I would do is I would sneak out, my bedroom would be shut, my dad would just get up and go to work. Well, he, for whatever reason that morning, needed something, and so he came in my room, and I wasn't in there. He's like, So I got busted sneaking out. And he took me to get a drug test, and I peed hot for every single thing on the drug test. And he was like, oh, wow. And so we kind of locked horns over that. And he said, you need to quit football and go to rehab, which is a really big deal. My team ended up 6A in Kansas, as big as it gets. They don't have 7A there. Yeah. And we were predicted to be the 6A state champs, or at least going to state.
What position?
I was defensive end, and they were going to move me to nose tackle that year. Which was really interesting. I was like 225 and ran a 4.840, but they wanted me inside. Anyway, I won't get into that, but yeah. So that was my, I was really, really excited about my senior year, years and years of playing football, wanted to do that. And he's telling me I got to quit to go to rehab, or I can quit football and go live with my mom in Colorado again. And so I packed up all my stuff, my car, and I drove to Colorado. And that was the biggest mistake of my life.
So mine wound up being the most impetuous good decision I ever made, because I got caught sneaking out of the house. So I was drinking and smoking starting in 4th grade.
Yeah.
And mine wasn't self-medicating, I don't think. And it wasn't a lot.
Yeah.
But it was there. and I was hanging out with a bunch of pot smokers, and mine was more. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. I mean, like making common sense like a superpower. So the illustrious Stan McDonald is called. He just called during the break to clarify. He said he did some quick searching. He found that it was not Butler High School, that the Butler High School graduate was one of the originators of the Discovery Channel. So one of the founders of Discovery Channel was from Huntsville and graduated from Butler, and he agreed that apparently this dude Wales, his last name, one of the Wikipedia founders, went to Randolph.
It's crazy. So not only the Wikipedia founder, but the Discovery Channel, one of their founders too, from Huntsville.
And then there's the whole, like putting a man on the moon.
I mean, there's also space travel,
just
kind of winning the Cold War. Yeah.
I don't want to brag, but Rightside from there originally too. Lewis from Trinity says, just saw a listing on Craigslist, location Portland, slightly used bicycle seat. Should I buy it? I would hold off. I would no. I would leave that one. No, just let it go. David from Hazel Green says those protesters in Portland should be praised for bravely exposing all their shortcomings to the entire world. It's getting worse.
Let's stop overhead.
Oh my gosh! And then Julie Ruff sends me something from Facebook. Says, "Did you know?" Oh, there it is. That's the guy, the Jimmy Wales guy from Huntsville who founded. Yeah. Okay. Good deal. He was on Time Magazine's 2006 100 most influential people in the world.
And it says he graduated from Randolph when he was 16.
Oh, that's right. He was an early graduate.
That's crazy.
That is. Okay. So we got Doogie Howser starting the. Do you know who Doogie Howser is?
Sorry. No.
Okay, never mind. Let me go to the phones because Jeff Rowe from Indiana is on the line. Hey, buddy, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good.
Coming to Kentucky, I'm in a chicken coop.
Nice. Well, keep moving. Keep moving.
I'm trying. But you don't feel, like Mossad took out all those terrorists with exploding beepers.
Yeah.
Well, if that's why you'll never have a naked bike ride in Israel. I would do Operation Greasy Pedal.
They just go ahead and wire up the bicycle seats and just make a mess of things.
No, just grease the pedals. That's all you
just
need.
Grease the pedals. Okay.
Yeah, that's all I would say.
This is awful. I had no idea when I brought this story up where this is going to go, but it turned into quite the thing.
Oh, it had to go somewhere.
Look, let me ask you this, man. So you're a truck driver. You're rolling down through the streets of, let's say, Nashville. You get to Nashville, and all of a sudden traffic comes to a screeching halt, and it's because you find out there's 100 naked protesters blocking the road. What do you do?
Take pictures, I'd say. Show it on Rightside Media.
No, I'm pretty sure we might lose our license for that. But
that probably wouldn't work too well, would it?
No, it's
no. I've seen some pretty strange things. I've told you about the one that the breast bump had for. I know that was all I needed to see in Nashville.
Yeah, let's stop now. But what are they? What are they accomplishing? Let me ask you this: in your opinion, are they actually accomplishing something? I mean, granted, we are talking about them, right? Did they accomplish something by the mere fact that we're in Alabama talking about them, or was this like a complete ridiculous waste of time? What do you think?
Well, no, they did accomplish something. We knew them before, but now.
Oh, did we lose him?
You went ahead and
there he is. Hang on. We lost you there for a second.
You
said we did. They accomplished something. What was it they accomplished?
Oh yeah, they accomplished. We thought they were idiots before, and now they proved that fact. So,
we could have found that out even on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't get it. All right. So one of the things we also covered earlier was we had Amy Minton on the show talking about libraries being controversial, and what are your thoughts? Did you ever imagine libraries being the center of controversy like they are?
Well, kind of, yeah, because you know, you got these woke teachers and, you know, these libtards that's teaching our children. Some of them are librarians. I guess it must, you know, be like a magnet for them, you know. So
Is libtard, is that the
it
LIB
makes
stand
sense.
for library? Is that like library tard? Is that what that is?
Yeah, that would be a libtard, I guess you'd say, because they just. What would be the draw to show kids the smut that they're wanting to show these young children, other than just being this deviants? And just, I think it's more of a stick it to the man. You know, we're gonna show your kids what we want to show them, and you're not going to have anything to say about it. You know? We know better than you. We're librarians.
Well, they don't know better than us, and apparently, what they don't know is there's a thing called accountability. So somewhere in there, the ones that are resisting are really. I mean, it's amazing to me. You've got like the Fairhope Library. Fairhope's a beautiful town. It really is. I love Fairhope, but Fairhope is also, you know, it's filled with liberals for Alabama, and they are determined to keep books in the kids section that nobody would have in their house in the kids section. And it's amazing.
And you know, it shouldn't take that much intelligence to be a librarian anymore, anyway, because I mean, used to be you had to know the Dewey Decimal System. Now everything's computerized. Heck, man, you can just say exactly where to put the books at and everything. So
yeah, wow. Listen,
it doesn't take a genius.
It does not take a genius. I mean, me and you can figure that one out, right? All right, brother. Well, listen, you be safe on the road. I'm going to get John's grades in and call it a day here on Taco Tuesday, but you be safe and we'll talk at you again tomorrow. All right.
Have a good one, buddy.
See you, man. Alice Mathis has texted in and said that she's giving us an A+ for the humor today.
It was the audience. The audience had all the material.
I'm saying.
Good.
Keith on a Tractor. I like that name. Keith on a Tractor says, well, we knew they were idiots, but now we can clearly see that they're also nuts.
Yeah.
JT Lacey Springs says, no skid marks on the bikes. Okay, I'm not going to go there. I'm leaving it alone after that. I'm just not going to read the rest of it. And the grades are in from John. John from Huntsville says, Phil gets a B. I got a B? Phil gets a B for putting images of butt-naked people in my head. Amy Minton gets an A+ for absolutely brilliant performances, which means today's winner is obviously the magnificent JP with the perfect A+ for his amazing sound effect performance. Congratulations, John Paul. There you go. Nice. Panikins. That may have actually been the sound of a naked bike rider hitting the brakes too hard. What do you think?
Or the sound of anybody that drove by and saw the protest.
I don't know, man. Listen, you know what? Libs are out there, but there ain't more of them than there are of us. I'm just telling you right now, there's just not. So as much as we like to poke fun, the reality is it's also because we're somewhat mocking them. Let's just be honest. We have plenty there. I mean, they give us everything it takes to mock them. And then what's funny is some of them really go home proud. What'd you do today, honey? Well, I was naked on a bicycle in front of the ice facility. Well, I am so proud of you. Haven't you just excelled today?
Well, you know, I'm really sad for these people as well, that they're in such a state of just degeneracy and lack of morals. And I mean, it's a sickness. So I hope that they can come to the light and stop feeling the need to just be naked in public any chance they get. But it's just, I feel bad for them, you know?
Yeah. Like, I hope they do soon. I mean, because winter's coming.
That's good. Come to the light. Yeah.
It's all true though. But your point is well taken. This is messed up. I mean, wokeness is often a sickness, and that naked bicycle ride to protest ICE is probably the clearest example we've seen in quite a while. All right, you folks, we'll keep calling them like we see them. In the meantime, do not forget, there are more of us than there are them. Oh yeah, God is still very much on his throne. Y'all stay in the fight. We'll see you tomorrow.